What's up, duelists? Welcome to the last stream before Christmas. KH Flow, thank you for 36 months, and Gigantic, thank you for 42. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's the first day after the Duelist Cup, or the first stream after the Duelist Cup, rather. Technically, yesterday was the first day after the Duelist Cup, but I kind of spent that one, sleeping long and chilling, because despite, stopping a few hours before the Duelist Cup ended, I did end up being quite tired from the weekend, but it's been a decent Duelist Cup. We'll talk about it all today. Chris, thank you so much for the 10 gifties. I appreciate that. Thank you for a little bit of a Christmas gift to the channel and to 10 people. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. VT Gary, thank you for the 31 as well. And Ryan JW4, thank you for the 22 as well. Happy holidays to you as well. I'm doing great, Nilmi. How are you today? I'm in a good mood. I mean, I do think the Duelist Cup weekend was good, even though I didn't win the Duelist Cup, but I still had a good time. I think overall, we're gonna talk about it. Of course, we're gonna draw some conclusions of what I think was good and what wasn't so good, and what's fun about Master Duel and what wasn't so fun about Master Duel. Of course, not everything was perfect, as you guys obviously know if you've watched the stream. But it's been a good weekend, I think, overall. I mean, Draco Tail has helped me a lot with my enjoyment of Master Duel, which is kind of what I expected with it to happen, right? So that is good. KH Flow, thank you for 5 more gifties. I appreciate that one as well. Thank you so much. And Queats, thank you for the 6 months. And Offek, thank you for the gifts up to Junk Speeder. Oh, it's gonna read all the individual gift subs again, isn't it? I have not fixed that. Yep, that's on me. Well, it is what it is. I haven't watched the stream. What is the Duelist Cup? Yeah, no, I no one tell them. No one tell them. I know you're joking, but no one tell them. No one should be introduced. How is One Piece going? It's actually been a while since we've watched. We are still... Where was it? What was the arc called? We just finished one arc. Dressrosa. We finished Dressrosa, which is like 700 episodes in or something. So, but then we just kind of like, we haven't continued. We're probably going to continue over the course of the Christmas holidays. You stopped exactly where Nadir stopped in Zoe? Oh yeah, Zoe is where they are now. Yeah, no, but we didn't plan on stopping. It was just kind of something that randomly happened. It was just like something, we watched it and then something came up. And then we started watching Stranger Things, the newest season, because we wanted to watch that as well. And then just like kind of like got in the middle of it. But we're gonna keep watching eventually. It's not like we stopped on purpose. What episode number? Oh, I think Dressrosa, end of Dressrosa is around 700. So it's like 400 episodes left. I think it's like, I think they have around 1100 something right now, but I might be wrong on that. But yeah. Did you react to the top 10 Duelist Cup deck lists? I was looking for a link this morning in preparation for the stream, but I haven't found one. But if you have like a thread or a link where all of those are combined, then we can take a look at it for sure. I was actually looking for that, but I didn't find it this morning. Master Duel meta. Okay, December Duelist Cup info. Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. Well, you know what? Let's warm up one last time before Christmas so that everyone has time to assemble. And then we'll get into what we want to do today. Ryan is the GOAT. Ryan is the GOAT. All right. There's no way we're starting things off with a Cybers card. Is that Dark Infant? There's no shot that's Dark Infant, dude. Oh my god, dude. I kind of can we stop streaming right now? That's crazy. That's insane, man. Yo, Kristen Nice, thank you for the 5 gift subs as well. Appreciate that. This is Morphtronic earphones. That is Dark Parshath. Dark Knight Parshath. Wait, what? Oh, is it Dark Freed? Ah. Dark Freed. Offek, thank you for the gift sub to Gaga Girl. That's Toolbox. This is Ice Barrier. No idea which one though. Dance Princess of the Ice Barrier. Eye of... Is it Eye of Illusion? No. I don't know. It's like a very old effect monster. It's like it's got some flip effect or something. Monster Eye. Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. I think it's Noble Knight related as well. Last chapter. Dude, what's up? We got Gishkis and Noble Knights all day. It's not Aquamirror Cycle, I don't think. Meditation. That is Zombie. The Red Eyes Necro, yeah. Zombie Necro Dragon. That is Dino Mist. Dino Mist. Howling? Howling. Dino Mists Howling. Okay. Today is not going to be a great score, I feel like. I can already feel like we're not on a great pace. I feel like I'm too slow right now. Maybe I'm still tired. I'm already making excuses not even 4 minutes in, by the way. That's a Dragon Maid. No, that's the blue one. Ernest is the pink one, yeah. Archfiend. They got the checkerboard, the chessboard in the back. Which one is that? Pawn? Vile Pawn Archfiend. That is AD Changer. Ooh. This is also something mad. Is it Mad Archfiend? Yeah. It's not Premature Burial, but is it Premature Return, maybe? No. It's definitely the Premature setup, but Overtune. Overtune. Over something burial. Overdone? Overdone. Hello. Oh, Fishborg. Fishborg harpooner? Fishborg. Doctor? Archer? Is that not a Fishborg? It's definitely a Fishborg. Come on. It's not Fishborg Blaster. Oh, come. It was the last one that it could have been because I knew it wasn't Fishborg Blaster. Is that Psychic Rover? Yeah. Dude, this is the Search Buster Blader spell, but it's not called Buster Blader. It's something emblem. Emblem of Dragon Destroyer. Yeah, that's the one. Super Heavy Samurai? Yeah, this is Soul Claw, I think is what it's called. Yeah. It looks sick. Thunderclap Skywolf. That's a cool looking card. Soravis. The Ancient and Descended. Never seen that before. Oh, Crystal. Crystal. It's not Beacon. Path? Oh, Rainbow Path. Rainbow Path. Could be. Yeah. Oh, Libromancer Fire. That's my guy. Oh, is that the Arcana Knight thingy? Arcana Extra Joker? Yeah. You know, the pace is not that terrible. That's a Yosenju card. Yosenju, is it L or R? It's one of the scales. Please be L. Let's go. Support platform? UA. Looks like a goalkeeper. No? Block backer. Okay. Metal foes. Metal foes. Thielen. Armed Dragon Thunder level 10. Wall of Ivy? Storm Dragon. Cloudian. This one I don't know, I think. No. Kaiser Sea Snake. I think this is rocket related, but I don't know it's called. It's what it's called. Squib Draw. Vortex Trooper. This is half or nothing, I think. Ooh, wait. Altergeist. Yeah, Kidolga. The generator, Levitin. Wait, where is it? Oh, there. FA Shining Star GT. Right. It looks Dino. It's definitely Dinomorphia. Dinomorphia. Brute? No. Brute Battle? No. Dinomorphia Shell? Shell. This looks like a starving venom. That is Darkworm. Yeah. I have no idea what that is. Space Gate. This I have seen, I think. Heroic Gift. Yes. Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. This is like Iron. Is it Iron Draw? Yeah. This is Xian's Dojo, I think. No. Castle of Mist? No. Eh? What is it? Fire for okay. It is a Jurak. Am I gonna try to guess the Jurak? But this might be a bad idea. Anyone know the Jurak? Tauriko. Let's go. Being a fan of dinosaurs when I was a kid finally paid off. This is a synchron carrier. Fluffle dog. Is that twin-headed thunder dragon? Yeah. Hey, you know what? We hit 800. It was not bad, actually. Skip the Raid Raptor with lightning speed. This is Spiral Mission. Spiral Mission. No, not Mission. Dude, what's it called? Spiral Gear Utility Wire. No? Is it not a Spiral card? Oh, it's not. Oh, it's the hero card. Hero, like... hero charge or some mask charge. Yeah. Oh, that's urgent schedule, right? Platinum gadget. Yeah. All right, 842 is not bad. It's not bad. It's okay. Oh wait, where's chat? Oh, there's chat. Okay. Okay. We are looking for today a level 4 dark effect monster with more than 1500 attack, less than 1500 defense. Which is newer than 2015. Yeah, Albaz or Aluber. Let's do Albaz because Dragon is more common. Wait, Aluber is not 2020, no. Okay. It's the same exact stats as Albaz, the same year as Albaz, but it is not Albaz. Albaz the Ashen is 2 years later and also a dragon, so it's not that. Gearsu? Is Gearsu from 2020? It is from 2020. Okay, nice. That was an easy one. That was an easy one to start off the day. All right, gamers, welcome to the last stream before Christmas. I didn't really have much time in the last couple of days, as you could have imagined, as you can imagine with playing the Duelist Cup, for really planning what to do today. So I figured we would just talk about the Duelist Cup a little bit and talk about some other things that have happened over the last couple of days and just have like a, in general, chill Yap session today. Because, I mean, there's a few things to talk about that I have already looked at in parts during the Duelist Cup. However, of course, I was focused on the Duelist Cup, so we don't really have, or I didn't really have that much time and mental space to really think about it. So we're going to be doing that today as well, and just hanging out a little bit before I go on a little bit of a Christmas break. So yeah, we'll see. The Law YGO DM recap. I think I'm gonna keep like a long react video for something in between the years in the next couple of days. I don't think I want to spend like hours today watching a video. It's not what I feel like doing, but we will eventually do that as well. Do we see some Malice today? We will have to talk about Malice, of course, when we talk about the Duelist Cup. So yeah, we're gonna start with that. We have obviously hello, Master Duel. I have played the Duelist Cup last weekend. If you were watching, of course, you know about this already. I finished not quite in top 100 because I also stopped a few hours before it ended, because to me, it was kind of like, I don't really care that much about making top 10 or top 100. I just want to do my best. And if it's good enough to win, then that's awesome. If not, then like I didn't feel like grinding for 4 more hours just to get like a top 100 or top 50 placement or whatever. So I ended up 119th with barely over 50,000 points. But I don't feel too bad about it, and we're gonna talk about how the event felt for me this time around, what my expectations were going in, how it turned out, what the format was like, what I would like to see on an upcoming Forbidden and Limited list, and then also some of the other things. But of course, first things first, a huge shout out to Ryan, Pack, and Stellar, who reached enormous point values in this one once again. I mean, Ryan, of course, has won multiple of these in the past. Amazing Master Duel player. But also Pack, you know, usually more of a TCG duelist, but literally 1 win behind Ryan on the leaderboard here. Literally 1 win for 1,000 points would have put Pack in first place, and he would have been able to qualify for Worlds. So incredibly close towards the end. But also Stellar, who I believe was actually first place for a long period of time over the last couple of hours, but then was overtaken by Pack and Ryan. Of course, amazing performance by all 3 of these. And And of course, we're going to see Ryan back at Worlds next year, which was kind of a given, to be honest. At some point, he was going to qualify no matter what. If it wasn't through a Duelist Cup, then probably through the regional qualifier. So, yeah. As I had announced previously, I played 99% Draco Tail, I would say. There was a very short period of time during the second day that I tried to mess around with some Mitsurugi, like more pure Mitsurugi. But I didn't really feel like it was any better than Draco Tail, because I switched over to Mitsurugi when in a period where Draco Tail wasn't really working well for me. I wasn't losing many points, but I also wasn't really climbing. I think that was one of the problems during day 2, is like I started day 2 at like 20 something thousand, and then throughout the day I couldn't really get anything going. Day 2 was definitely the worst day for me. And then I tried some Mitsurugi, and Mitsurugi also couldn't really... I didn't really lose many points with Mitsurugi either, but I also didn't gain any. So, yeah. You should switch to a higher ceiling deck, not just the same ceiling. See, that's the thing, right? This is one of the things that we're going to talk about in retrospect of this Duelist Cup, in hindsight and so on and so forth. But I actually don't feel bad about this, because I did say literally on the Friday when the tournament started, and even beforehand, I did say if the way to qualify for Worlds in this Duelist Cup is to play a higher ceiling combo deck like Malice or Onomat Ryziel or whatever, if that's the way to qualify, then I'm not going to qualify. That is what I said on Friday, and that kind of ended up being true. I mean, I think Pac played some Draco Tail, but Ryan played a lot of Onomat Ryziel and Malice, and also Mitsurugi Ryziel, which is also more of a combo deck than pure Ryziel. And like, I've told myself in the past, like, one key factor for, or at least the way I see it, one key factor for me to be able to even compete in Duelist Cups for this amount of time, in only 3 days, right? You have to play so much Master Duel. I can only do it if I play a deck that I like. I cannot bring myself to play, I don't know, Tenpai for 72 hours. I cannot bring myself to play Onomat Ryziel or Malice for 72 hours. I cannot do that. If that is the way to qualify for Worlds, I'm not qualifying for Worlds. And so that's why I don't feel bad for my deck choice. You know, I knew that there was a chance that Malice was the better deck, or that another deck was the better deck, but I'm not gonna play it. I cannot play it for this long. I hate the gameplay it provides. I hate playing against it even more. But like I just don't enjoy this type of gameplay for this long. And so I didn't want to do it. And so I don't feel bad at all. And I do think I'm happy to see that Pac was able to perform so well with Draco Tail, because I believe Pac posted on Twitter that he was using a couple of different decks, but mostly Draco Tail is what he said, which is really nice. And I was also really happy to see. Let me search for Pac's tweet real quick. Pac also posted his deck list, and I was very happy to see that it was basically the exact same Draco Tail deck list that I was using for almost the entire weekend, which we can talk about in a second as well. But Pac posted this. I played Malice and Ryziel to get through the early rounds, then Draco Tail for 90% of the run. 5 rotating non-engine flex spots based on the Duelist Cup meta. Droll, Perulia, Meowls, Lancia, Nib, Reboot, Veiler. Most likely second overall. Try harder next time. And this is the deck list that he posted. This is the skeleton where like the last 5 cards are non-engine he rotated around. This is 50 cards between main and extra deck, that exactly the same cards that I ended up playing as well towards the end. Like I was literally, this was my list that we're going to take a look at in a second, but I played like some Bells or Nibs or Veilers or whatever as the last couple of slots, right? I ended up playing exactly this basically exclusively on day 3. In my list, in day 3, hold up, I can show you mine towards the end. In my list towards the end, the missing 5 cards. I played 1 Perulia because there was a disgusting amount of Ryzeal decks, and Perulia is also pretty good against Malice. I played 1 Perulia, 2 Veilers, and 2 Nibs. But the other cards are all exactly the same. I'm really happy that this is the deck that ended up. This is the best Draco Tail version that ended up doing well in the Duelist Cup. And I'm really happy about that because, you know, I might not be the best or most dedicated combo player out there, but I feel like I do know my theory behind like the mid-range stuff. And I did say the entire time, like, hey, if you're playing Spenta and Magister stuff in Draco Tail, it's a good deck. But I think realistically, I think you have the wrong idea of what you're trying to achieve with your deck. Like if you're trying to play a higher ceiling deck, you should be playing Onomat Ryzeal or Malice. Like if you're trying to play a combo deck, play a combo deck. If you want to play Draco Tail, then you should, in my opinion, you should lean into the advantages of the deck. You should lean into what this deck does best, which is ignore Droll and Lockbird, don't suffer from Fuvalos or Maxi at all, and just play a grindy mid-range playstyle. That's what Draco Tail does. If you don't like that, if you think that sort of end board is too weak and you want to play something that auto wins when it goes first, then play Ryzeal or play Malice. But I don't think Draco Tail is the best combo deck. I don't think it's very smart to play Magistus Draco Tail or whatever, you know. I think Branded Draco Tail was valid because Branded Draco Tail is kind of the same deck as this one. The only difference is like, well, you cut 3 Cartesias, you play 2 Branded Fusion, you play 1 Albaz, and then you also have to play the Frixel, which in my opinion is just a bad trade-off. Because while Branded Fusion is an amazing card, Cartesia also is an amazing card, because what Cartesia offers you is it's also a starter unless you draw 0 Draco Tail monsters. But I mean, you play so many, you're probably going to have one. So you don't have to play Albaz and Frixel, which are both not a starter and not non-engine either. So they're pretty suboptimal to draw. So in this version of the deck, you have no bad draws basically. Because all of the Cartesias, like there's no engine requirements to play Cartesia. Whereas in the branded version, you have engine requirements. And I think that's the reason why this is the best version of this deck in Master Duel, because in Master Duel there's 3 Fuva and 2 Maxis and a lot of Drolls in a lot of decks, and this deck is the deck that exploits that the best. And of course, I had games where I went first, I made my board, and I lost because my opponent's deck was able to push through it with like Red Reboot and a strong engine hand or whatever. Like that happens. Yes, it does happen. It does not auto win going first. But that at the same time is kind of what makes it appealing to me as a player. This is the kind of playset that I like. I don't like making a board that my opponent looks at and then just presses the surrender button, which I understand that that's a good thing in terms of the competition, but it's not a good thing for my mental when I go through a 72-hour tournament and I never have to actually it's kind of weird. I understand when you say like, oh well, it's a competition, you should be trying to try and achieve that, but this is something I've learned about myself in the past in Duelist Cups, is like if I don't enjoy the deck that I'm playing, then I'm not going to be able to, like, I will crash out. I will crash out over the course of 72 hours if I just play a deck that is so dull that, like, you summon a monster, your opponent scoops, and your opponent goes first, and you scoop, or you get max seed, then you scoop, and that's a dynamic that I simply, I simply cannot deal with. So I'm happy to see that Pack was able to perform with this deck, at least. Yeah. In terms of my own takeaway from this entire thing, I'm happy to report that despite its flaws that we're going to get into in a second, this Duelist Cup was probably my favorite one in a long time. And I will say that the bar for that is basically on the floor. But it's still something, you know, it's still something because, I mean, previous Duelist Cups, I don't have to tell you, whenever I streamed it, you guys saw it, right? Like the 10-Pi Duelist Cup, the Snake Eye Duelist Cups, the full power Malice Duelist Cups, you know, the bar was pretty freaking low for this Duelist Cup to be better. But basically the thing that kept me alive, the thing that kept me sane throughout this Duelist Cup was just the Draco Tail mirror matches. The Draco Tail mirror matches were awesome. Like the Draco Tail mirror match is for an enjoyer of grindy and a little bit slower Yu-Gi-Oh than what some of these combo decks are doing. The Draco Tail mirror was just it was so good for my soul. You know, I just absolutely loved it. And so even though I was going up against Malice and Onomat Ryzeal way more than Draco Tail, I think overall, having those bits of Draco Tail mirror matches in between was just what made this overall better for me. And that's why I think my mental throughout the 3 days was overall better. I think the reason why I didn't perform as well is that my prep just wasn't as good as it needed to be. Because I think doing well in a Duelist Cup, and I am not going to blame bad luck on this one, because there were periods where I got very unlucky, but at the same time, I think it is pretty foolish to blame bad luck for Duelist Cup performances when people like Ryan are out here reaching 80,000 points, and not just one time, but consistently over the course of multiple Duelist Cups. So I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, I just got unlucky. I could have easily won this one if I didn't have that one bad streak on day 2 or whatever. Because, I mean, luck is a factor, but there's no way it can be responsible for a 30,000 point difference, and Ryan is able to do it every time, you know? So I think the reality is, if I reflect on my own performance, I think I'm pretty proud of my 3rd day this time. I am pretty proud of how I played on day 3. But I do notice that, like, even though my play on day 1 and day 2 was solid, if I think back to some of those moments, I think there are definitely moments where I played cleaner towards the end of the tournament. And I think that is basically, if this tournament was to happen again, I think like right now, I think with the experience from this Duelist Cup, I think I could do even better. I think my play towards the end of the tournament was a lot cleaner, and I also think my deck list towards the end of the tournament was a lot cleaner, because in the beginning I was still kind of like messing around, you know, should I play Nib or should I not play Nib? Should I play Bell or should I play Valor? Should I play 2 Cartesia? Should I play 3 Cartesia? Should I play 1 Pan? Should I play 2 Pan? Those are all things that were all kind of like questions in my head when I started playing the tournament on Friday. And then towards Sunday, I think I landed on a list that was basically exactly what it needed to be. But realistically, I should have had that on Friday already, probably. Like, I played, I don't know, maybe 400 games in this Duelist Cup. I have no idea how many, probably around 400. Maybe more than that even. But realistically speaking, I probably should have had that many games beforehand already as preparation, which I didn't. I didn't have, which, you know, it's just a matter of my November was pretty busy, and that, but then maybe I could have locked in harder in December to prepare more. But yeah, the red reboots were so rough. The red reboots were rough, but at the same time, I did figure out ways to beat red reboot a lot more consistently on Sunday, for example, because a lot of games, I don't know if you've noticed this, because I didn't. I mean, I talked on Sunday. I had the mic and face cam on, but one thing I did a lot more on Sunday was, if I had the choice between, and this happened a lot, if I had the choice between setting all 3 traps, or I had the choice between 2 traps and a Mululu on the board, or 2 traps and a Phimena in hand, I would always pick the one that had monster interruption, right? I would always prioritize getting to a Mululu on board or a Phimena in hand, or both, or a pan in rotation so that I can pop and survive the turn if they reboot, rather than getting all 3 traps. Of course, in an ideal world, you get all of that, right? You get 3 traps and Pimena, usually, and seals if things go right. But you know, so I did find adjustments to that, but realistically, those are all things that maybe I should have been aware of beforehand already. So yeah, I think the prep could have been better, and I could have played and I could have probably prepared better and then achieved higher points. Yeah, but I'm happy to report that my mental this time was probably at its best ever. You know, of course there was moments where I got frustrated, but I never crashed out and like played stupid decks or other stuff. Like I stuck to my plan, which was just play the deck I like, play Draco Tail or Mitsurugi, which I did for a very short period of time. But then I realized, hey, no, this Mitsurugi deck is not working as well as the Draco Tail deck. I just had some bad luck with Draco Tail. That doesn't mean I have to switch the deck. So I went back to Draco Tail, and I stuck with it. I kept making improvements to the list based on the meta I was seeing, and I just stuck with it, and I improved my play with Draco Tail throughout the 3 days. And you know, I started day 3 with literally 30,000 points because my day 2 was so bad, and then I went all the way up to 50. With Draco Tail, which was pretty cool. I think I'm pretty proud of my play on day 3, and so I think I learned a lot this Duelist Cup about myself, about how to maybe do better in future Duelist Cups, and I think that's all that mattered. Or all that matters is being happy with the performance you did and taking something away for next time. And I think I did. I think I can safely say I do both of those things. I'm happy with how I played. And that's the thing, right? The realization that I could have or should have prepared better is not necessarily a negative thing for me, because there is a positive thought in all of that, because there's a promise in there. Like I can safely say, if I prepare better, I can do better, right? And that's a good takeaway. That's something you can take and improve next time. Where like realistically, I just have to put in a shit ton of work to win a Duelist Cup if I ever want to do it, you know? And that's something I definitely didn't do it this time. I didn't like sit there and play like 400 games of Draco Tail before this Duelist Cup, which maybe if I did that, maybe if I grinded ranked mode more, like for example, I did make Master 1, but I barely played in Master 1. Like I'm on 1500, you know. There's people every month that are climbing to the 1800s, or 1700 something at least, you know. Like the current cutoff for top 10 is 1780. There's people that play way more Master Duel at the moment than I do, you know, which is fair enough because I do a lot of other things as well. But it's something that I can take away and improve if I want to do well in another Duelist Cup, and maybe I will. Basically, that's what I'm getting to. Is overall, I enjoyed my Duelist Cup run, and if there's ever another format where there's a deck that I enjoy, I think I will just sit down, lock the fuck in, and practice a lot more before it starts, so that I have my deck list and my play already figured out, and then I think we can avoid some unnecessary losses. So yeah. All right, now to the things that were not so good with this Duelist Cup, maybe. Now, here are the decks that Ryan won with. Mitsurugi Ryziel, sure, deck has a little bit too much ceiling for my liking. The other 2 decks, which are by far, and when I say by far, I mean by far, not even close, the 2 decks I played against the most in this Duelist Cup, Malice and Onomat Ryziel, which are also 2 decks that Ryan used for his climb. in parts. You know, played some Malice, played some Onomat Ryzeal, played some Mitsurugi Ryzeal. These two decks, once again, this is my opinion, but I think a lot of people would agree with me, are miserable to play against. Malice is miserable to play against, and Onomat Ryzeal, honestly, Onomat Ryzeal might be more cringe than Malice. Onomat Ryzeal might be a more cringe strategy than Malice. That deck, literally, every single card in this deck is just like summon level 4, search level 4, make rank 4, specials more level 4s, whatever. And there's the amount of crazy shit that this deck can do is insane. Like I've gotten turn skipped by Onomat Ryzeal. Ryan's list doesn't have this, but a lot of the others did. Where is it? Does someone here have it? This one does. This one does not have it. This is rank 3 Stellar, also Onomat Ryzeal. This is rank 4 Global, also Onomat Ryzeal. This one plays Heavy Slump to deal with Maxi and other Charmies, which is insane behavior. I got Heavy Slumped as well. Here, rank 5 Malice. Rank 7 Malice. Rank 9 Malice. Rank 10 Draco Tail, shout out, base individual. But yeah, that's the top 10. Malice, 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 Onomat, Onomat, one Draco Tail, a second Draco Tail by pack, and then we've got Ryan with Mitsu Ryzeal, Malice, and Onomat. Like it's literally, and that's I guess where I was disappointed, and also where I was wrong. I thought this was going to be the Draco Tail Duelist Cup, and I was wrong. I underestimated the power level that these decks are at in Master Duel severely. You know, I thought, you know, let's go and play some Draco Tail now. Finally, that Red Ransom is banned and stuff like that. And I mean, I kind of saw it coming, but I didn't want it. I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want to believe it. Like I commented Challenger Cups before this, and it was always Malice that was doing well. You know, Malice was doing super well in tournaments left and right. And I was like, nah, it's fine. I can just play Draco Tail. And I mean, Draco Tail was fine, but it was not the best deck for this Duelist Cup. Those were obviously, looking at the results here, all the people, or most of the people that basically really wanted to win and perform as best as they can, they played Malice and Onomat Ryzeal. And both of those decks are just the most miserable combo slop imaginable. If their combos resolve going first, they just win. No exception. And Red Reboot being super popular also didn't quite help my enjoyment of this tournament, because I was trying to play Draco Tail and I got Red Rebooted a shit ton. When in reality, like, I mean, Red Reboot does kind of work against Malice a little bit, but realistically, it was just there to beat Draco Tail. Yeah, no, on the Onomat decks, literally, like, pick your poison. Some of them, I encountered people doing Protoss Lock. I encountered people doing a literal turn skip with some, you need like a Pendulum Exceed rank 4 that puts itself into the Pendulum scale. Like, yeah, it's Trident Ooze or whatever is what it's called. Then they make a Ptolemaeus with, I have no idea how many materials. It's like you make you summon, okay, hear me out. You summon 2 level 4s to make the Ooze. The Ooze goes into the Pendulum scale. Then you summon 5 more level 4s to make a Ptolemaeus, the Teller Knight thingy. Then you activate Plugin to attach another material to the Ptolemaeus. And then the Ooze from the scale can attach itself. And then you have 7 materials. And that thing has an effect to detach 7 and skip the opponent's turn. Which, just the fact that that deck is able to do that is completely insane. Because they are not doing just that, right? They are not doing just that. You might think like, oh, that's a lot of level 4s they can summon. But at least they're not doing other things to protect their combo. No, they summon more level 4s than that. They do all that with protection from Ryzeal Cross. They do all that. They can summon Infernal Flame Banshee beforehand. They summon Ryzeal Duo Drive. They summon Ryzeal Detonator, whatever. Then they clear their board by sending stuff with like with Node Ryzeal or whatever, so they have room for more rank 4s. Like That deck is insane. It summons like basically every single level 4 in this deck is summoned in that combo, except for Mulcharmy. But every other level 4 hits the board at some point. It summons the entire deck onto the field, basically, and also the entire extra deck. I've in my breaks, I watched yugioh play some Onomat Ryziel sometimes. Like also after I stopped streaming, I didn't go to bed right away. I watched some of the people that were still streaming their runs. I saw yugioh deck out people under Mulcharmies by summoning the entire extra deck on turn 1. That happened to me as well, but by Adignister and Cyber Slop, where I got decked out by Adignister once off of one card. They summoned one Adignister, I maxed, I died. Because they summoned Omni Negates before I drew my hand traps, and I got decked out. Straight up. One of the stupid yellow Adignisters, I got decked out. I sometimes had too many level 4s and not enough space. No, I know. That was something that I watched yugioh play one game where the problem genuinely was he was trying to like deck out the opponent, but the problem was that he had too many monsters. So he had to like make room. He had to like overlay 2 rank 4s for Eclipse Twin, then get the Eclipse Twin into the graveyard, then shuffle it back into the deck with the graveyard effect of the reptile Onomat, this thing, and then make it again to like deck out the opponent. It's insane. This deck is insanity. Like, yeah. So essential, and then also hand trapping this deck with anything that isn't a Mulcharmy is impossible. Straight up impossible. Like, yes, if you imperm an Ice Ryziel and they don't have an extender, you might win, but like you cannot. Yeah, okay, Droll can also work, but Droll is horrible against Malice, so that was not a card I wanted to play in Draco Tail. But like, they activate Dodo Warrior in hand. There's no amount of hand traps that realistically saves you from it. Like, there's literally no amount of hand traps that saves you from it, because Dodo Warrior summons 2 level 4s, makes a rank 4 without normal summoning, and if it is detached from the rank 4 as material, it also searches an extender. You can Veiler the Dodo Warrior to make it a level 6, but then you instantly explode if they have a normal summon in their hand full of level 4s. You instantly explode. So this deck, basically anything that is a quote-unquote fair hand trap, anything, Veiler, Imperm, Ash, whatever, you are literally just checking, do you have one extender? And if they have one extender, there's no amount of hand traps you can draw. There's no amount of hand traps you can draw to stop this deck if it draws like a normal summon and extender or whatever. There's no way. And what's the alternative? Getting turn skipped. So if you or like, I mean, no matter, it doesn't matter what they go for, it's all auto win. It is all auto win. This deck, if this deck resolves the combo, you lose the game. They have so much disruption, no matter what version they play. It is disgusting. It is genuinely disgusting. And I mean, it's all the same things, but that Malice does, but like rank 4 instead of Link monsters, literally. I think this deck's combo is even more cringe than the Malice combo. The only difference is that this deck's grind game is worse than the Malice grind game. And this deck's non-engine is also worse than the Malice non-engine. Like, if you stop this deck with a Charmy or whatever, they're not going to Ash Impulse you on your turn. And they're also not going to activate Allure Chessy Cat to draw 6 cards and have all the non-engine in their deck in hand. So in that sense, this deck is a little worse than Malice, but the combo is actually even more cringe than the Malice combo. But yeah, like both of these decks, literally, like it took so much mental energy for me when I played. There was periods where I played against like literally 5 Onomat Ryziels back to back in the Duelist Cup around the 40,000-ish point mark, 45,000 points, and like it took so much mental energy for me to not stop right there. When that happened. The same is true for Malice. Like there was a period where I didn't play against a Draco Tail deck like 10 or 15 games streak. It was all Malice and Onomat and other shit. And I was so close to stopping. I stayed through it, and I'm happy I did. But like, they need to do something about these two decks. It's insane. It is insane what these decks do. And I genuinely, looking at my chat over the course of the weekend, and also like I cannot imagine that anyone enjoys playing against Onomat Ryzeal. I cannot fathom a world where people genuinely enjoy playing against Onomat Ryzeal. There's no shot that's a thing, right? That's not real. Nah, it is fun to play though. Yeah, but I think that is a mentality that we have to get away from. Genuinely, I think that mentality is a huge problem. I think like we have to get this idea out of our heads that Yu-Gi-Oh decks are fine as long as you are having fun when you play and do this shit to your opponent. Which I understand that. I understand where you're coming from. Genuinely, I know what you're saying. I see what you're trying to say. But like, this is a game, and a game should aim to be fun for both people. And I know one person is going to lose, and for some people, losing always feels bad. But let me tell you, there is a massive difference what you're losing to. It makes so much of a difference. I can tell you, I played over 400 games this weekend, losing a Draco Tail mirror match that went on for like a couple of turns and had back and forth interaction and whatnot because my opponent outplayed or played well, and just it does not feel the same. It does not feel the same than when you get red rebooted by this deck, and then you have like an Effect Veiler in hand or whatever and a 5 mana, and they just activate one Dodo Warrior and you cannot stop it, and you just get destroyed. It is not the same. And I think that is important, that Yu-Gi-Oh should try to be fun for both players as much as possible. And neither of these decks do this. And so I understand that people enjoy playing Malice. I understand that people enjoy playing Onomat, but you also have to understand that that these decks make the game actively less fun for at least 50% of the player base. Everyone who plays against it has a worse day because of it, and that is not good archetype design. Period. It's a 2-player game, so you should not be summoning 15 Exceed monsters on turn 1 and then turn skip the opponent. It should not be a thing. Period. There is no amount of enjoyment for one player that justifies that experience for the opponent. It just doesn't. So yeah. So I honestly, I don't even want to predict what they're going to do to these decks. I mean, the amount of hits that Malice has already received and still is one of the best decks in the format, if not the best deck in the format, is quite frankly disgusting. I mean, they banned Appaloosa, they limited Chessy Cat, they limited Dormouse, they banned Red Ransom, they limited the Field Spell, they limited Gold Sarcophagus, and the deck is still the best deck in the format. So they need to do something massive at this point. And I think at this point, like literally, maybe in the beginning, people were making fun of me for complaining about Malice when it just came out. And when I said they shouldn't have made this deck, they were like, oh, let Malice have its time. And so like, right now, no one, like literally no one wants this deck to survive. Like I see so many people say like, oh, just get rid of this deck already. I'm tired. And that even includes OCG players. Like I saw some OCG Master Duel players, like I think shout out to Gimlet, who just posted, he was just crashing out about Malice all weekend on Twitter, and I was here for it. Like look, there's only so much of this type of shit that players can take, man. So yeah. Man of the Mark is annoying. Yeah, Man of the Mark is annoying, but Man of the Mark is also just like a response to this type of gameplay, I believe. Like I think this type of the dynamic of these decks is basically if you resolve one card, you instantly win the game. So I think it is no wonder that some people just decided to play decks that aim to not let the opponent play at all, right? Also, like that deck just wasn't good. I told you this beforehand. The deck was popular in the middle-ish ranks, but it's not good. it is simply not a good strategy. The deck literally cannot win if your opponent summons a monster onto the field that has some amount of attack points. Like it's just not a winning strategy. So obvious, there was no one playing it in top 10, and I would be surprised if there's many that made it into the top 100. Because you just, like, your opponent summons one X Ryziel and you're playing Odeon, you literally explode. Yeah. It's just fancy stun, basically. Odeon is literally has been downgraded to fancy stun because of decks like these as well, though. Like, Odeon itself is actually, like, designed much more like it could be played as like a mid-range combo-y deck, right? But that's just not the best version of it because these decks just exploit that too much. So yeah. Did you see Onomat Ryziel coming? I feel like it was quite unpopular before the Duelist Cup. Maybe just people testing Dracotail. I didn't see it coming, but at the same time, my prep also wasn't super in-depth, is what I realize now in hindsight. You know, I was just kind of like, you know, I'm going to play Dracotail anyway, so let me just practice Dracotail, which I think is fine, but at the same time, I also, like, I mean, even if I had known about this, I would not have played it. I would not have played this if I had known about it. No shot. I mean, I talked to Ryan the day before the Duelist Cup, and he said, yeah, I'm going to play Onomat Ryziel. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I didn't know about the ins and outs and what exactly they were trying to achieve and stuff like that. But I knew Ryan was going to play it. But like, I wouldn't have played it anyways, no matter what. But yeah. So, I mean, yeah, next Forbidden and Limited list, please murder Malice forever. Also get rid of Onomat Ryziel. I mean, we're gonna talk about this in a second as well, but like, I already talked about how mad I was about what they did to Ryziel in general with like, we talked about it, or I talked about it during the OCG Banlist, where they've put Ice Ryziel to 1 now in the OCG. And I just think as someone who actually liked Ryziel when it came out, I think it's kind of sad what happened to it, because Ryziel was such a, like, I know people complained about it back then already, but realistically, from a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh perspective, pure Ryziel was just a fine deck. Like, pure Ryziel was completely fine. Complaining about pure Ryziel in the beginning of when it came out is basically like complaining about Dracotail right now, which is crazy to me. There is genuinely people out there, when these are the decks winning the Duelist Cup, under every single video where we discuss the format, people are complaining about pure Dracotail, which is insane to me. At this point, if you complain about pure Dracotail, you simply hate it when your opponent activates a good Yu-Gi-Oh card. So you just want to get free wins, basically. If you think pure Dracotail is too broken or badly designed, then you're not trying to play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh. You're just trying to, you hate when your opponent has a good card. So pure Ryziel when it came out was completely fine. The deck had choke points because it didn't have access to Ryziel Cross before you resolved the Duo Drive. So the clear choke point against Ryziel was always, well, just hand trap the Duo Drive. If it's Ash or Imperm or Veiler or Ghost Ogre or whatever, just hit the Duo Drive and they will literally always go Detonator Pass. It was basically exclusively go Detonator Pass. Baguska was sometimes annoying. Honestly, Baguska was probably the most annoying thing about pure Ryziel in the beginning. That was literally it. It was like sometimes they made Baguska instead of Detonator, and that was really annoying. But realistically, it was a fine deck. And then they made Star Ryziel. And all of a sudden, the choke point was eliminated. There was no more way to hold your hand traps for Duo Drive unless it was maybe specifically Imperm. But even Imperm, it was really annoying to hold Imperm for Duo Drive when Star was around, because Star would still guarantee cross, right? And then if you Imperm the Duo Drive, you're no longer just facing a a detonator, you're facing a detonator with cross and a draw, which is significantly better. So the choke point was completely eliminated. It was no longer possible to actually hold your hand trap for a meaningful choke point, which basically meant that every single hand trap against Ryziel was just mini game now. You know, you can no longer escape the mini game against Ryziel. You just have to hand trap the first thing you see and hope they don't have an extender. And then you ash the Ice Ryziel and they special summon Sword Ryziel and you explode. Because they do everything anyways. So that was the first thing they severely messed up with Ryziel. And then the second thing was that they just added more rank 4 slop in future sets that just exploded the ceiling of this deck. Ryziel itself only summons a maximum of like 6 level 4 monsters, right? You have Ice Ryziel that summons a second copy. You have X from hand, Sword from hand, and then you have Node that revives one, which is 6 summons. Maybe sometimes you can arrange it so that you can summon Star Ryziel from hand, which is a 7th one, but 7 doesn't really give you another rank 4 unless you play Ryziel plugin. So you literally, that was the ceiling of Ryziel, which was fine. It was a fine ceiling. And then they added Onomat, which all of a sudden make that number triple of what you can summon in terms of level 4s. You know, you have one Dododo warrior in your hand. It doesn't matter. You get 15 more level 4s now for no reason. And if you don't draw the Ryziels, well, you make Infernal Flame Banshee to search X Ryziel. Or if you don't draw the Onomats, you can make like there's other, like I think people make some people made who is it called? Not Laplacian, the other one. Alambertian to search some of the Onomats, or you can also like access it via, I think, Gagaga Girl or whatever. Yeah, detachable material, add a Gagaga Onomat or Xyz card from your deck to your hand. Yeah, there's like a bunch of ways to do it. So yeah, they literally and this is the story of 2025, is that they are making archetypes for the most part that are fine if they are contained to their own archetype, but they just screwed up how easy it is for people to just combine multiple archetypes together. Like you cannot design Ryziel, which was a completely functional deck on its own, and then just make another deck that just goes together with Ryziel and creates something that is so much more broken. You just can't do that, period. They have to stop doing that. And it's happening to so many decks right now. It's happening to Mitsurugi because Mitsurugi is being splashed in with everything. It's happening with Ryziel. It's even happening with Draco Tail. Even Draco Tail. They want to sell cards? Yeah, but like they're trying too hard. They're hurting themselves. People would have bought Draco Tail even if it was contained to Draco Tail. People like Mitsurugi even if it's just pure Mitsurugi. People like Yummy if it's pure Yummy. People like Ryziel if it's pure Ryziel. You don't have to do this. It's not a good argument. They are overpowering. I don't even know if it's on purpose. I don't even know if they see all this coming, because honestly, the idea that they see a deck like this coming and release it anyways is even more scary. The idea that someone there was aware of what Ryziel Onomat is capable of doing and they still did it is insane to me. They saw it with Adignister. Yeah, they are I think they're pushing it too hard. I think they're pushing it too hard. Like making like people already bought Malice. People already wanted Malice cards before they made Backup Adignister, Wizard Adignister, and Allied Code Talker. Right? Malice was already a sought after tier 1 deck before those cards. They did not have to make those cards to make the deck meta. It was already meta. Ryziel was already meta before Onomat. Draco Tail is already meta before we get before we get Spenta. Before we get whatever. The Albaz support, the branded stuff that just goes into Draco Tail slop now. Mitsurugi Mitsurugi is also a completely fine deck on its own. I played pure Mitsurugi at Nationals. It was part of the meta. It was playable. I liked it. All of these decks are completely fine if they just left them within their own archetype. Nothing here needed that support. They are just overpower creeping for no real reason. It's not a justification for it. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And so if there's anything to take away from this, it's that archetype design in 2025 has improved, which you might be surprised that that's a positive takeaway. But I do think if you look at 2024, you know, Tenpai, Snake Eye, Yubel, Malice, if you look at the archetypes in 2025 in comparison, you know, Yami, Mitsurugi, Draco Tail, and so on, like there's a lot more, and even K9, there's a lot of decks that if they were played as the pure version, they would be completely fine and people would love all of them. But unfortunately, no one plays them pure, or only very few people are incentivized to play them pure, because everyone is incentivized to just splash them together and create something that's broken. Same for Vanquish Soul. Yeah, Vanquish Soul didn't need a K9 to be viable, you know? They had to hit Vanquish Soul because they made K9. Imagine that. It's so stupid. So like that's the takeaway basically, is like make the archetypes, keep doing what you're doing with the archetype designs, but just put locks on them. Just make sure you cannot just splash two random archetypes that have nothing to do with each other into the same deck and just create something that's more powerful than anything should ever be. So yeah. So like combining archetypes is fun in the beginning when you figure out like a combination. But at this point, it has nothing to do with creativity anymore to put Ryziel cards with Onomat cards, because they're made for each other anyways. It's like pretending to be smart and creative when you put Sword Soul cards with Tenny cards. It's like, bro, no, they are designed to be together. Like it's not creativity when you put those two together. It's like, no, you just put like two Lego bricks on top of each other. Sick, good job. It's not meant to be that way. What about Mitsuyami? Yeah, what part of Mitsuyami is creative now? Like it was creative in the beginning and now it's just annoying. Phantom Revenge has locks, and yeah. I mean, that's the problem, right? Like people say like, oh, but if you put locks on cards, then they're just going to be bad. Which is only true. Hear me out. This is only true because they make other decks that don't have locks. So if they were consistent in their archetype design, then this wouldn't be a problem. Because, of course, when you have two archetypes that are designed at relatively similar power level, and the one has locks on it that stops it from being splashed with other stuff or generic extra deck monsters, and the other one has a lock on it that prevents you from doing that, then of course you're going to play the one that has less restrictions and is more broken because of that, right? But if they were consistent with their design, then we wouldn't have this problem. This is a problem that they made because they made archetypes without locks. Those archetypes are more tempting. That's why people choose them, you know? That is why certain decks fall behind other decks, is because it's not because the other ones are worse, it's just because the other ones are the better ones are better for no reason, and it's unreasonable, right? So, yeah. So I think we just have to get rid of these cards, and that's the reason why I was so like in the middle of the OCG Banlist thing, which I want to talk about in a second again as well. But like when I looked at the hits to Ryziel, Yami, Draco Tail that happened here, it got me thinking, and I kind of yapped about that a little bit in my OCG Banlist reaction. That like I think it's actually, these are good hits, but I think it's kind of sad that they were necessary, right? Like they are just basically artificially they created these problems themselves, right? Like none of these cards in a vacuum is so broken that it needs to be hit if people just played the pure decks. the reason why these cards are so broken is because they have no locks attached to them that actually matter, right? Like this thing locks you into rank 4s in a deck that only wants to summon rank 4s. This thing locks you into fusion for the rest of the turn in a deck that has no problem with that. And I mean, this has no locks on it anywhere. So like, they are deserved hits, but they wouldn't be necessary if they locked you properly. If like Ice Ryziel, first of all, it's crazy that it locks you on the summon from hand. That is of course what I meant. But like, if the fact that this doesn't lock you on normal summon is honestly something that like insane to me. Which is also, by the way, that little quirk, that Ice Ryziel quirk, that Ice Ryziel doesn't lock you on its good effect, but rather on its bad effect. That is single-handedly responsible for the dominance of Fiendsmith Mitsurugi over of Fiendsmith Ryziel over Pure Ryziel in the TCG. That is the only reason, you know, that was a thing. Is because you could normal summon Ice and do full Fiendsmith combo after. For no reason. So yeah. Anyways, we're drifting away from the original discussion. The OCG ban list that we're going to talk about in a second as well did some pretty good steps in general for Yu-Gi-Oh! But like in Master Duel specifically, I would like some of those changes adapted. Of course, they started hitting Max C Ash called by in the OCG, which is good. But they need to do something. I don't care what they do for Malice, but I think it might be time for Whitebinder. It's definitely it's been time for so long for Link Decoder and Splash Mage. Like I don't even want to mention these anymore. Those have to go honestly independently of Malice. Splash Mage and Link Decoder probably have to go. But like I think it might be Whitebinder or ban a main deck name time, honestly. It might just be I think it's clear that you have to ban another Malice card in order to achieve this. You cannot hit consistency in a deck that is full of searchers and slop potential. There is literally a reinforcement of the army type card for Cybers in Signet Mining, and they're not playing it. There's this card that searches I Meet You. There is Cybers Wicked that searches by extension any Malice name, because you can search backup Adignister and then backup searches any Malice. So as long as you don't ban Malice cards, they will find ways to search the Malice cards. Like, once again, it is a problem that they created by giving these decks so many tools. But like, even if you limit March Hare and limit White Rabbit and limit that's all the Malice cards in the main deck, like people will find ways to search them. People will just activate Circular, and Circular gives you Wicked, and Wicked gives you Backup, and Backup gives you Dormouse. Like, there's no way to prevent it. There's no way to prevent Cyber Slop from happening if you don't ban the card that they're searching for. They still have Dormouse every single game, even though it's limited. They have Chessy Cat every single game, even though it's limited. So, like, there's no point. There's literally no point. So, yeah. Get rid of Malice and get rid of Onomat. Admit your mistakes, get rid of them. It's time. That's all I have to say after the Duelist Cup. I got my first National and WCQ tops with Malice, and I really love the deck, but at this point I also have to say that the deck has been around too much. I mean, yes and no, because what you're leaning towards now, or what your argument says, is like that it's been around for too long, and I also don't agree with that. I think my point has always been the same with Malice, and that is unfortunately what I talked about earlier, is that Malice is just inherently not fun to play against. And I think I understand that you love the deck. I understand that you like playing with the deck, and that's fine. And I know that my perspective here is heavily subjective, but I also think that I'm not alone with that perspective. I think the majority of people agree with this, and that is that these types of decks are not fun to play against. And I think for that, it's like, of course, at the point where they've printed it, I think your argument makes sense. It's like, okay, these cards are out now. So of course they're not going to ban them right away because they want people to get their time in with these cards. But basically what I'm leaning towards is like, I want the message to be like, please don't make archetypes like this in the future, right? Because it makes the game less enjoyable for a lot of people if you have to play against this stuff over and over and over again. And so once it's been made, I guess, sure, we can start measuring the time of how long it can be there, and eventually it has to go. Fair enough. That point I do agree with. But it's not like the kind of logic that I like to use when I talk about card design. You know, I guess that is in some ways kind of pointless, is like saying like, because saying the card shouldn't have been printed is kind of pointless when it's obviously been printed, right? So you might say like, oh, well, that's not very helpful to say like you shouldn't have done this if they've already done it. But I do think that that sort of feedback needs to be given at some point if they want to improve their decisions in the future. I do think there needs to be this sort of sentiment. If you know, if you want things to change, I guess you need to give them feedback on what you liked and what you didn't like. So that's what I'm trying to do. I still can't believe they released Ignis support made for the deck while Malice was already meta. Yeah, that sort of stuff is unfortunate, and I do think that sometimes this is a result of the I think the fact is that, or I think that they probably have this sort of stuff lined up way in advance. I think that Alliance Insight cards were probably already designed and set in stone before Malice even came out. And realistically, I think this is a theory. I don't know this for sure, but maybe they overpower stuff on purpose. But I think the reality is sometimes they don't know exactly how powerful stuff is, and then they make more support for it just to make sure it's going to be good. It's like with Malice, it's like, okay, they make Malice and they're like, we want this deck to be good, so we're giving them good effects. And then to make sure it really is good, we're making some Ignister support in the next set to also, you know, go on top of it, just in case it doesn't quite go as well as they think, right? And then as a result of this, because I can't imagine that they always understand the full extent of how powerful a deck is. Like sometimes, I'm pretty sure sometimes a deck comes out and then the entire Yu-Gi-Oh community gets their hands on it, and there's so much more testing and playing being done with it than they could ever do in the development process, because there's so many people, you know, out here that play with these cards and find the perfect build and optimize everything and so on, and then the deck ends up being way more powerful than it was supposed to be, I think. So I guess that's kind of the problem. If I had to pinpoint it, I think that's kind of what's going on. Is like they are overtuning cards on purpose because they want to make sure archetypes are good and desirable, and then they end up just like overshooting the goal too often with this type of stuff. But yeah. But I do think like Draco Tail, for example, Draco Tail is a perfect example of the opposite also being completely fine, right? Like no one thinks Draco Tail is too weak. Draco Tail, at least from what I'm seeing, is a super successful archetype. You know, it's won YCSs. People love it. The design is great. It's not overtuned. And there's still a crazy amount of demand for it. You know, people love Draco Tail. And it's not this overtuned combo slop that turns the game into a single player game for the person that's pulling off the combos, right? So like it's basically proof that this is not necessary, right? This is not it's not necessary for people to enjoy an archetype. Is that they keep releasing more and more and more broken archetypes or support for archetypes. So yeah. What do you think of Farfa's argument that the main anime decks should always be meta? I mean, Like, does he mean like Blue Eyes and stuff? Like Dark Magician should always be an option, and Blue Eyes should always be an option, or whatever? Yes. I wouldn't hate that. I mean, look, I don't care that much personally about anime archetypes. I would say if the playstyle of the deck is cool, then I would say yes. I always base this sort of stuff off of, do I like the way the deck plays? If the deck is boring and not fun to play or play against, then I think it's bad. If it's good for the game, if it's healthy gameplay, then sure, why not? Right? And so I guess that's what it would depend on. It's all fun and games until they make anime decks as strong as Yubel. See, I don't have a problem with the deck being strong. I think it's more about the general type of gameplay that it provides. And Yubel is the exact same shit. You resolve one card, you win the game, there's no question asked. Basically, that is the problem with Yubel. And also the lack of proper locks. You know, it was not just Yubel that was the problem. If you were contained to the Yubel cards, then it would probably be fine. But the deck went through full Fiendsmith combo. The deck didn't lock into anything, so it even summoned Varudras, which is a rank 10 worm. It wasn't even locked into Fiends at some point. Like, none of that stuff locked you into Fiend. It did full Fiendsmith, full Unchained, full Yubel combo, and summoned Varudras and SP Little Knight or whatever it wanted. Like, that is not... And Caesar and everything. Like, that is not... It's just the... It's, once again, it's the same problem just a year earlier, Appaloosa as well. It's just... the same problem, but a year earlier, where like if stuff gets combined too much with other things, then it reaches a point where people don't enjoy playing against it anymore. So yeah, that's that. All right. Which I think is a decent segue to talking about the OCG banlist a little bit more. I mean, I've already uploaded my initial reaction. This is going to be more of a discussion on why this is important, I think. If you want my initial reaction to this, where I talked about some of these things that we also just started talking about a little bit, it is on the Plus channel on YouTube. You can go !YouTube if you want to check that out. But so I did kind of want to reiterate over this, because I think some people might wonder why I think this is important, why I make such a big deal out of this ban list in particular, and also OCG ban list in general. Like, why do I always look at these, and why do I talk about them so much? I think this matters a lot because the OCG is basically the origin of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like, I do think the TCG, TCG Konami has some say in when cards are designed. I'm sure they're able to give their feedback and everything, but I think the majority of card design and archetype design and stuff and core booster set designs and stuff like that, I think that is managed by the OCG. I think the OCG does the majority of this, and the OCG has the major say in all of this. At least that's what I feel like it is. Of course, TCG gets to do their own ban list, which is good, but we still basically get all the cards from the OCG, right? Like, and sometimes the TCG creates their own archetypes, which is also cool sometimes, but the majority, like 99% of cards, are from the OCG, and that lays the groundwork. It's basically the basics of Yu-Gi-Oh! They come from the OCG. And even if we use a different ban list, when cards come out, when cards release, they are not on the ban list yet, you know? And if we get an OCG archetype that is designed with OCG philosophy and OCG ban list in mind, then we will get that archetype at full power in the TCG. And that, in the past, has often turned out to be a problem. I mean, one of my favorite examples for this, I guess, is Super Heavy Samurai still, even though that's like 2 years ago at this point. Like, Super Heavy Samurai was clearly designed. I think it's very obvious that Super Heavy Samurai was designed with the OCG in mind, because at the time, Max C was at 3. And the whole gimmick of Super Heavy Samurai was, well, you can't play spell cards, so you can't play Called by the Grave, which I think was also still at 2 back then. So it was like, okay, well, this deck is a super powerful combo deck, but you can't play Called By to negate your opponent's hand traps. You can't play Called By specifically to negate Max C. So statistically, the deck is weaker into Max C. So I think that was the justification to make Super Heavy Samurai, which fundamentally I disagreed with it back in the day because the gameplay the deck offered was terrible and so on. But from a win rate perspective, I guess that's fair enough. You know, can't play Called By, can't play Crossout, so it dies to some hand traps. It did get Gamma back then at, I think, still at 3. But basically, what I'm trying to say with this is like that whole philosophy completely went up in flames when the deck came to the TCG because we didn't have Max C. So the fact that they didn't have Called By didn't matter as much. For us, it was just like, well, you better have Droll and Lockbird because there was no Charmy at the time. And so if we didn't have Droll in hand, we died to Super Heavy Samurai, pretty much. I mean, people obviously tried to play stuff like Ghost Ogre for Wakaushi, but it wasn't really a thing. Like, the deck was super annoying. And so they hit it on the TCG ban list really quick, which I think is what gave it away, that was definitely an OCG design with that philosophy in mind. I think the fact that the TCG handled Super Heavy Samurai so quickly was both very good and also a clear indicator of that deck was not designed for the TCG in mind, right? So the OCG moving in the right direction is important because it means that in the future, they will have to design archetypes better to begin with. You know, the less copies of Max C there are, the less they can use this stupid argument of, well, Max C is in the game, so let's design more broken and broken combo decks. So Max C going to 1 is a big step. And honestly, Max C going from 2 to 1 is a bigger step than Max C going from 3 to 2. Because, of course, it going from 3 to 2 was the first step, but it going from 2 to 1 statistically is a bigger step. And I think that is huge. I mean, no one is going to enjoy playing with 1 Max C. People don't enjoy playing with 2 Maxis. People don't enjoy playing with 3 Maxis. So I'm happy that it's going down. As well as Called by the Grave, as well as Ash Blossom, actually. A lot of the cards that are basically associated with the minigame. And as much as you might think the hand trap Maxi minigame is a funny meme in Master Duel or whatever, it is not. It is a genuine problem for the gameplay loop of Yu-Gi-Oh! That, like, Maxi exists to counter combo decks, and then Called By and Ash Blossom exists to counter Maxi. And that's just like this vicious cycle of variance and literally no skill involved. And the gameplay that stems from this entire thing is just not interesting and not fun to begin with. Because if you play against a combo deck and you have Maxi in hand, it's not going to be a fun game. Probably for both players, but definitely not for one of you. Because either you Maxi your opponent and your opponent's deck explodes because Maxi resolved, or your opponent ashes or Called Bys your Maxi and then you explode because your opponent's deck is way too broken. And so getting rid of all things minigame related in the OCG means they will have to design decks more carefully in the future. They just have to. Otherwise, you know, people are not going to enjoy the archetypes, and that's a problem. So yeah, that's why I think this is such a big ban list, and why I mean, it's not just Maxi to 1. There's a lot of other things here that are going the right way. You know, they're hitting generic extra deck stuff. Moon, Splash Mage, Baguska. They're hitting Called By. They're hitting Ash Blossom. Dominus Impulse, I think, is also a pretty good hit. So this is a really good OCG ban list, and I think it matters a lot. And I was really happy. It really cheered me up over the course of the weekend. I looked at it in the middle of the Duelist Cup, and I was like, yeah, that's huge. And it did cheer me up over the course of the weekend. So that was cool. Being sacked with a 1-of Maxi will tilt me to the end of the moon, to be honest. I mean, yeah, there is something about 1-ofs feeling sacky that makes it feel bad to lose against, of course, which is why it should be banned. But still, like, if you think about it logically for 1 second, would you rather play against someone with 1 Maxi in their deck or 2? It's like, yeah, okay, sure, the 1-of feels bad because then they drew the 1-of, but like, you would still rather play against someone who only has one in their deck, because then the chance for it to happen is smaller. Like, I know some of you are going to say 0 because that's technically the real answer, even though it's not the question I asked. So yeah. Travis, thank you for the 19 months. Welcome back. If it goes to 1 in Master Duel, do you think any team for Worlds ever picks it? Ooh, that's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know, actually. I don't know. So like it might create this like super weird dynamic where it is definitely the best card in the game, right? But it is just a one-off, so even if you designate it as your shared card, then you don't get a lot of... It's very inefficient, right? It's very, very inefficient. Hualos is more important. Well, you don't have just one shared card, you know. Maybe you do Fuva Ash and Maxi. Yeah. I could see it could still be Fuva Ash Maxi. I could still see it. Didn't people still pick Called By even at 1? I think some did. But not everyone, definitely. I think it was more of the exception than the norm to pick Called By. But I do think Called By was at 2. Oh, it was at 2, right? Yeah. And even then, it wasn't like everywhere. But yeah. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think some people would still pick it at 1, honestly. I would still consider it. If Fuva didn't exist, would you share Maxi counters? No. Like, I mean, you could still share Ash if you think it's a good hand trap in the format, which, spoilers, it's not. Ash Blossom is not a really good hand trap at the moment. It's like going second, you draw Ash Blossom. Usually it feels terrible. So if without Maxi, or like, yeah, without Maxi, and if Fuva didn't exist, I think people wouldn't share Ash Blossom. At least not nearly, like, not 100% of people at Worlds. It would be way lower. Like, I think if they ban Maxi, I think the play rate of Ash Blossom goes down in Master Duel. And if Fuva didn't exist, or if there's a format without Fuva in it, then people might just not play Ash. But yeah. I saw this picture earlier, which I thought was funny. Someone keeps updating this screenshot of full power Ishizu tier every time a ban list hits one of these cards. And we have now reached a point where in the best deck of 2022, the amount of cards that are still legal in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 21, 2, 26. 26 cards are still legal out of 55. Less than half now. It is now less than half of the deck that is legal to play. Yeah, they lost Baguska and another Maxi on this ban list. Terra is also banned. In Master Duel, Terra is banned and Perlo Rhino is banned. But we also have Kit Kalos, but no Merly. And also we have 3 Orange Light and 2 Maxis. Yeah, this is not Master Duel, this is OCG. But yeah. I think the Baguska is a very interesting one for me, because I think it's so odd that TCG still has Baguska. Isn't that really weird? Every time the OCG bans a floodgate before the TCG, you know something's weird. It's really awkward. Like, out of all the formats to still keep Baguska around so hard, why is it TCG? Is Baguska that bad when most decks can just use SP to out it? It is usually not as simple as just use SP to out it, though. Because in order to make SP, you have to summon 2 monsters, and one of them needs to be from the extra deck, and you have to do all that under Baguska, and you also have to make it so that after you go SP on Baguska, you don't just pass the turn, so you kind of have to keep playing. And it's really not that simple. And any deck that doesn't get to a very easy and free SP Little Knight just dies to Baguska. So, yeah. It is true that Baguska is, like, basically, there is a few things about Baguska that are better than other floodgates, and then there's one thing in particular about Baguska that is a lot worse, which is also an important principle to understand, and that is that Baguska is a little bit easier to out and not as broken as something like, I don't know, There Can Be Only One, or Macrocosmos or something. The problem is that it's in your extra deck, so you pick when to summon it, and you can always do it. It's not a matter of, well, it's not going to happen every game because they might just not draw it. Baguska is always available to you. So even if a decent amount of your hands can out a Baguska, there is still going to be a large portion of hands that can't, and it's always going to be available for you in those games, basically. So I think it's really, I think that's a problem that basically it multiplies the problem of Baguska as a card. Like, if Baguska was somehow like a main deck monster that you had to like summon somehow, or I don't know, if there was a similarly working like trap card, people probably wouldn't play it. I think the one that's the most comparable, I guess, is like Lose One Turn, and you don't really see Lose One Turn seeing play. But that's because it's not always accessible. If you could access a Lose One Turn from your extra deck, then everyone would do it, and it would be really problematic. So that is also something to consider when you look at like the power level of a card. Is like, well, do I have to draw this, or can I just summon it from my extra deck whenever I want? It's like, yeah, Nightmare Griffin as well. Nightmare Griffin on a trap card, people wouldn't play it. But Nightmare Griffin generic from the extra deck, you will definitely find decks that'll do it, and it's really annoying. Right? So that's that. Okay. There's been another ban list. Asian English January 2026 Forbidden Limited list. This is like kind of a wild format. Asian English, they had a lot of cards like legal at 3 that were kind of crazy. We're gonna see on this ban list. They banned nothing. The limits are also kind of wild. It's Cupsy Yummy from 3-1, Jokel from 3-1, March Hare from 3-1, White Rabbit from 3-1, Arclight from 3-1, K2 Draco Tail from 3-1, Malice in Underground. Dude, Malice was at an obscene power level here. Malice in Underground 3-1, Obedience School 3-1, Pre-Prep 3-1, Cozen Match and Rivalry were both at 3. So this format is wild. Yeah. A lot of it, oddly, with the exception of Cupsy Yummy, a lot of it is just basically taking hits from the OCG and also applying it to Asian English format. At the same time, I think the OCG also hit Malice in a different way. I think Malice in the OCG actually has 3 Field Spell, 3 Rabbit, and 3 March Hare. So it's actually quite different. Yeah. Semi-Limit, Ash Blossom, Ice Ryzeal, Izuna, Max C, Raisin, and Snatchy. The format is only 2 years old. Yeah, it's a weird one. I don't see that much about it as well. Like, I don't see as much of like tournament reports or metagame reports from Asian English format. I know there's some countries. I talked to one of the world's competitors this year who was I think from Singapore. I'm pretty sure Singapore. And I think in Singapore, they play both formats. Like there's some formats that use OCG and some formats that use Asian English format. Shane, yeah. They have to like adjust and kind of play both formats if you want to maximize your chances to go to Worlds. Like there's some tournaments, like I think they have to collect points over the course of the year to qualify for like other tournaments that then qualify you for like the Asian qualifier for Worlds. And like some of them are in OCG format and some of them are in Asian English format. So he had to like kind of keep up with both. So he told me a little bit about it, but he also said like the Asian English format is like the Wild West. And like it had 3 maxis. I'm pretty sure it has 3 gammas as well. I don't know if or maybe they hit gamma afterwards, but I think he told me about like the gamma being at 3 and so on. So yeah, Alka Fibrax is legal. Yeah. There's a lot of things going on in Asian English format, but I guess all things considered, without being too familiar with the format, it looks like things are moving in the right direction here. I mean, Maxi and Ash going to 2 is good. A lot of these hits are justified. Gozen and Rivalry, good riddance. So yeah. Samorg is about to release 2. What, the Link, the Wind Link 3? Yeah, that's another thing about this format that makes it really hard for me to judge, is that the release schedule is like super different. Because they're kind of like they started super I think just 2 years ago or something, you said, and then they're just like gradually adding cards from whenever. It's kind of like Master Duel, but even more random release order, I guess. There's a lot of old cards that they don't even have. Yeah. Did you watch this interview with Shane? I saw it when it came out. Yeah, I watched it. I don't remember much from it though. It's been a while. All right. There's one other thing I wanted to bring to your attention that was posted yesterday, and I posted about it on Twitter already, but I think this is honestly some of my favorite news that happened this month, or this weekend, basically. I mean, last weekend was full of announcements, but there's one thing that maybe flew under the radar a little bit, but I want to put some emphasis on it because I think this is my favorite announcement, actually. This is the Chaos Origins product configuration for the OCG, which sounds like the least exciting thing you've ever heard about. But there's one small thing here. Basically, it announces Chaos Origins as the next core booster set, and they're giving you the specifications of what's going to be in this box. And this is for the OCG. I wanna preface this by saying this is for the OCG, but it's telling you, okay, you know, it's going to be 80 cards in the pack, which is normal. That is all core booster sets in the OCG. And then for the TCG, they add 20 more, which are usually split between imports and TCG exclusives. So 80 new cards split into 4 ultimates, 8 ultras, 10 supers, 18 rares, 40 normals. And 24 cards can be obtained in Prismatic Secret, 30 cards come in Secret Rare, 4 of the Prismatic Secret Rares come in overframe card artwork. And this little sentence here made me really happy. And let me tell you why. Because, of course, we've been reacting to the overframe cards. We've been reacting to these kind of cards. It's been all over the Yu-Gi-Oh world on last weekend, right? Like on the internet. It was everywhere. And everyone loves these, with very, very few exceptions. The feedback I saw on these cards has been insane. It's come from everywhere. You know, I've heard from players, I've heard from collectors, I've heard from everywhere that this rarity is looking nice. And of course, I agree. I think it's awesome. And this is, in my opinion, a very important step for Yu-Gi-Oh! Not just because these cards are awesome, but because Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually does struggle at the moment with the product not being as desirable to open. You know, there is not as much collectability in Yu-Gi-Oh! At the moment. As a result of that, there's not as many people that just open up boxes because it's fun to open, because they're chasing for something and whatever. And that means that a lot of the value in Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards is just within the playable secret rares, right? And that is a problem because that is what's keeping Yu-Gi-Oh from being super affordable. Now, I will say they've done a lot in that direction this year with good reprints and stuff like that, but there's only so much that reprints can achieve because reprints are always late to the party. If you're trying to play the newest good deck, you're going to need those Marshmallow Yummies immediately, not when they're reprinted, right? And so if Marshmallow Yummy is the only chase card in the set, that is a problem because it's a secret rare. And I mean, there needs to be chase cards, so it's understandable that it's a secret rare. But if it's the only real chase card, then Yummy is going to be pretty expensive to play, right? So the introduction of collectible cards that can act like chase cards is important and huge for Yu-Gi-Oh! And so far, before this announcement, we only knew that this was going to happen in the Rarity Collection, right? But this is, and I said this in my initial reaction to these cards, is I said this needs to happen in core booster sets. If this doesn't happen in core booster sets, this is cool and nice and beautiful, but it doesn't actually solve one of Yu-Gi-Oh's problems, which is collectability and core sets being bad to open. This confirms that it's happening in core booster sets in the OCG. And this doesn't guarantee that it's going to happen in the TCG as well, but it makes it likely, I think. I think this is something, this is another step towards, like, hopefully this happens in TCG as well. And it's not just that. It is, if I understand this correctly, 4 of the 14 ultra rare cards can appear with a new illustration. Does this mean we're getting alternate artworks as well? Does this mean we're getting alternate artworks in core booster sets immediately, not like 2 years later in some rarity collection? Because that's another big news. Right? Expansion pack only? Expansion pack, 15 cards, 1 card per pack, 14 ultra rares. No. Okay. The box bonus plus 1. This is like a box topper, right? This is a box topper they get in the OCG where it's like you get the packs and then you have one other, like, one extra thingy. Okay. I mean, I guess the good thing about this is still, like, the alt arts are going to be available technically immediately when the card comes out, right? So hopefully, I mean, they could add this to our product as well somehow, but, like, I think that the main news is that, like, we're getting overframe cards in the initial core booster set, which I think is huge. I mean, just imagine if, like, imagine any set, right, from this year that was like let's just look at Doom of Dimensions, right, where it's like, okay, you know, it has Marshmallow Yummy and whatnot, but, like, it's not worth opening at the moment. I think just if you look at just, like, the value of it, but there's just no real thing to chase for, you know. But if it had 4 overframe cards of some of the best cards in the set, I think that alone would make it, like, chaseable, you know, like the feeling of opening a box when you know, like, every, like, 1 in 12 boxes or whatever, like 1 per case could have a full art card. If you have the chance of hitting it big, right, I think that's huge for a product like this. So, and this is just maybe just the beginning of all of this, and I think that's really awesome. Like, yeah. Also, this, I believe, this is the best looking version of the card. I think this is the ones that are going to be, like, the serialized ones, with, like, the special foiling as well. I think there's even within the frame breaks, this is the Grandmaster rare, yeah. Even within the overframe cards, there's going to be like different versions, some of them more fancy than others. Yeah. 100? Oh, there's going to be 100 of this? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing, right? I will probably never own one of these, right? I will never own one of these ever if there's only 100 copies, but I don't care. I don't need them for myself. I want these to make Yu-Gi-Oh attractive as a whole for as many people as possible. You know, the entire concept of a card like this existing in a product is going to make it more collectible and more fun to open and more exciting to open. And that's going to make Yu-Gi-Oh more accessible as a whole, because the more product is being opened, the more cards are in rotation, which are going to help the secondary market a lot. And the more like and this does not, because this doesn't affect how much, like, you don't have to play this card. Just to play Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't need this card. This card is not important for Yu-Gi-Oh to work as a concept in terms of like just playing it. But as collectors, this is huge. For someone who collects Yu-Gi-Oh, this is something to collect. This is something to open product for, right? And I think that's what's important here. That's the important news. So yeah. Could this work as YCS pricing? I mean, yeah, of course. If YCS price cards looked like this, they would be worth more money, period. It's not always about how many of a certain card are there, but like how a card looks. If a card looks insane, then yes, it's going to be worth more money, I think. Like if you get this as a YCS price card, I think it's worth more. I think it's worth more money because of that. But yeah. So yeah, it was all things considered. It was a really exciting weekend for Yu-Gi-Oh. Like between the Duelist Cup happening, all these announcements for the full arts, the OCG Banlist, like I kind of felt like Yu-Gi-Oh was already having a banger year, especially the TCG. But now there's just a lot of things happening towards the end of this December that just made it so much more exciting to be a Yu-Gi-Oh player, at least for me personally. You know, and I mean, the year is not quite over, because there is a chance we should get a Master Duel ban list soon, hopefully, right? Don't they usually announce them like somewhat soon-ish after the Duelist Cup? I'm sure they won't announce them during the Christmas holidays, but maybe like towards the end of the year. They did change every spell on the ban list page to a trap on Sunday, so now I cope it's soon. Wait, what are you talking about? So what you're saying is they changed something with the they messed around with the ban list website, and that's why you think they are planning something? I didn't see anything about that, but I mean, maybe you're right. I mean, honestly, I don't even care when we get a ban list. I just think we should get one before the next big YCS, which is the what is it, 300th? Check the page, it's funny, it's still up. Send me a link, because I never know, because there's like 20 different ban list websites. Like there's a America one, Europe one, whatever. Lots of copium, but I'm down. I mean, we live off of that copium, don't we? Rim Gear, thank you for the Prime. Thank you for 28 months of support. I appreciate you. So what is different here? You said they changed spells to traps, but all the spells are... Oh, it says trap. Here, I see. Ah! I was looking for the color. Ah, it says trap. Okay. That is that is premium copium material, I'm not gonna lie to you. That is top tier copium material. I'm in. I'm coping right now as well. No, I do agree. Yeah. I do agree. That is copium material. Which of these cards would still be good if it was a trap card? Okay, confiscation would be even stronger as a trap, I think. Maybe not even stronger, but still really broken. Because then you get to check after they draw for turn, right? Cold Wave is beyond insane as a trap. Cold Wave is insane, yeah. Start of main phase, no spells for you this turn, true. Card of Safe Return, probably unplayable as a trap. Continuous trap. The Linquent Duo is good. Dimension Fusion is probably not great. Giant TrueNet is unusable. Graceful is... Is Graceful good as a trap? Yes. I mean, I know one deck where I would play it. I would play that in Paleo, for sure. But funnily enough, do you, like, okay, it would be good in some decks, but do you think it would be a problem if they made it? Is it really a problem if, like, Labyrinth and Paleo get to play a card like that? Yes, maybe. I don't know. It's funny. It's funny how changing it from a spell to a trap makes it almost considerable as an effect, right? Yes, because I don't like them. Fair enough. Fair enough. Trap Heavy Storm probably sucks. Trap Kaiser Colosseum is still really broken. Trap Last Will is probably fine. Trap Mass Driver is unplayable. Trap Metamorphosis is unplayable. Trap Mirage. Oh, actually, Trap Metamorphosis, there's probably something broken you can do in Labyrinth by setting it from your deck and then immediately activating and then summoning some cringe stuff. Maybe. Trap Mirage of Nightmare is unusable. That card should probably even come back. Trap Mystic Mine is broken. Trap OSS is unplayable. Trap Painful Choice is good. Probably. Right? Trap Painful Choice is broken. Show him like 2 rollbacks and 3 crazy traps. Trap Pot of Greed. Trap Pot of Greed. Next question. Is that good? I don't even know if I would play that in Labyrinth. I think they wouldn't. They might not, honestly. I think the crazy thing about Trap Graceful in those decks is that you can discard, like, Rollback or something. But I think Trap Pot of Greed, I think almost no deck really plays that. I would play it in Paleo. But, like, I don't know. I think that'd be an interesting card. I think it's kind of sad that, like, you know, they keep making more and more like Yu-Gi-Oh cards with more and more effects, but I think there is still a lot of like very simple design space in Yu-Gi-Oh that hasn't been explored. And for some reason they feel like they have to do more and more like crazy stuff when there's so much things they can explore just to see what it does, you know? Like, for example, like trap card, draw 2 cards. Or, like, would that even see play? I'm not sure. Can you believe that to this day, we do not have a simple quick play spell that says destroy 1 card on the field? We don't have it. It doesn't exist. We have the Fallen and the Virtuous, which is the closest thing to it, but they even added, like, they added so much more to that card in terms of, like, text and restrictions and whatnot. But, like, can we really... Offering to the Doomed? Yeah. Offering to the Doomed is not that. That's like saying Mystical Space Typhoon is that. But just a quick play spell that can destroy any card on the field. That's what I mean. Like, you know. Final Bringer of the End Times. Guys, when I say there is no card that does exactly this, all right? What's your argument by naming cards that do something different? What are you trying to say right now? What's your point? My argument is I'm not listening. All right, fair enough. That's a good argument. That's a good point. Premature as a trap literally exists. No one plays it. Smoke grenade of the thief, probably no problem. Soul charge, no problem. So forceful send, yeah. The hand loop cards would probably be good if they were legal. But most of them is like, I think it's like 80% of this would not be a problem if it was traps. Or 90%, but yeah. All right, we're on some copium now. They messed around with the ban list page. That probably means they are up to something. I think it's the same for limit 2. I'm getting a feeling, Skrelp, which it might just be that it might just be that traps are less powerful than spells on average. Maybe I'm onto something. But yeah, the traps are also limit. The spells in the limit section are also traps, but not here. Now, what do they mean by this? What do they mean by this? Did they maybe not change the semi-limit section at all? Maybe nothing changes with the semi-limits. It's just limits and bans. Hold that thought. Nothing changes with the semi-limits, maybe. Okay, well, I mean, I'm not going to be live over the Christmas holidays, but if there is a banlist update at 6 p.m. today, then you know where to go, because then I will go live. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if anything, right? If anything, it would be today, right? If it's before Christmas. There's no way it's going to be on 24, 25, or 26. All right, there's no shot. There's absolutely no shot. It could be today, or it could be towards the end of December. But no, there's no way it's 24, 25, 26. But it would be insane if we got a good ban list on 23rd of December. That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. But yeah. Last list was a Monday. Well, but it's Tuesday today, isn't it? So that doesn't add up. We for sure get an Ash semi-limit, right? Dude, the Ash semi-limit is so interesting. And I'm like, I think I still want to make a video about it. I had it planned for after the Duelist Cup anyways. I was just gonna yap about it a little bit off stream and then post it. And I think I still will, because I think this is a very underappreciated hit. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that agree with it, but I think a lot of people also don't really understand why this is happening. But yeah, I think it's not unlikely it happens in TCG. It should happen in TCG as well. It should happen, because I think like basically the people that it's funny that Perulia Enjoyers subscribed right now with the Prime. I appreciate you. Thank you. That was good timing. I think it's kind of I think we're reaching a point in Yu-Gi-Oh where people finally start understanding something that I've been trying to hammer into your heads for months now, is that Mold Charmies are good for Yu-Gi-Oh. Mold Charmies need to resolve in order to make this game playable. Most of the good Yu-Gi-Oh games happen after Mold Charmies. The majority of them, actually, these days. Against any Mitsurugi, Yami, or whatever, like if you resolve a Mold Charmy, the game becomes good. And there's a few things. This argument goes deeper, but immediately in chat, why is Max C not good then? Because the gameplay that happens after Max C is not good. Because it's way too strong at this. It's too punishing. Mold Charmies are punishing for making certain actions. Max C punishes you too much. It is too strong. The second thing is Max C works behind a board. Yu-Gi-Oh is at a point where going first is disproportionately strong. And it's been like this for a long time, but like it's been getting better. Of course, decks are getting better and better and better, and it's just disproportionately favoring the player going first because it's he gets to do the player going first gets to do everything first. He gets to they get to resolve all the things, all the card effects that go card advantage. They do it first, right? And they have more disruption for the opponent's turn because they have an end board. So every time the power in Yu-Gi-Oh goes up, it usually benefits the player going first. We need to move away from non-engine that is really strong going first and second. And especially, and this is why Molcharmies are healthy. This is especially why Maxi is unhealthy. And that is also another reason why Ash Blossom is unhealthy, because Ash Blossom at the moment has aged super poorly because the card was meant to, when Ash Blossom was made in 2017 or 2018, it was already a really good card. But Ash Blossom was mainly for the player going second, to stop the board from building, right? These days, Ash Blossom barely does that anymore. Like, of course, Ash Blossom is a hand trap and you can use it when you go second. But if you understand what's going on with Yu-Gi-Oh right now, you understand that Ash Blossom significantly benefits the player going first. If both players draw Ash Blossom, the player going first is more likely to win. Because it negates Max C or any Charmy. And if it doesn't, if your opponent doesn't have Max C or a Charmy, then Ash Blossom is one of the best things to have in your hand behind a board. There's so many games where you stare down a board, you try to figure out, well, how do I break this? And then you start playing into it, and then your opponent activates Max C or Ash Blossom or Dominus Impulse. Those are the strongest examples of this, and you just cannot win now because, like, trading 1-for-1 is significantly better when you already have a board. Trading away your opponent's resources, minimizing the things that they can do, is much stronger when you have a board already and they are trying to make one. So, like, Ash Blossom going second is not even close to the power level of Ash Blossom going first. And literally, everything I just said is the same as Called by the Grave. Ash Blossom is Called by the Grave in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! It just is. If you don't understand the similarity between these two cards nowadays, then I can't explain it better. I think what I just told you is exactly the reason. These two cards do the same thing. These two cards do the same thing. They benefit the player going first disproportionately. You can use Called by going second sometimes as well. Sometimes it helps you. You know, sometimes your opponent makes a board and Called by is really good because they go Seals effect and you Called by it. Sure. But the proportions are way off. The player going first benefits way more from this card than the player going second. And this is the same thing for Ash Blossom. It's also the same thing for Dominus Impulse. Dominus Impulse as a hand trap is good. Dominus Impulse when you go first and you have a board is insane. Because then you're cutting your opponent off even harder from any chance to play the game. And this is why I really like these cards getting looked at right now. We need more cards like the Molcharmies. There's no good solution to this besides curbing power of new decks. That is also important. Yes, they also need to work on the power level of new decks, absolutely. But I don't think it's the only solution. I think letting Charmies resolve is also something that's decent. The other option is to let Charmies resolve everyone making half boards and just dying to Engine because Engine is strong. Well, that depends, I think. At the moment, that's not where we are. I don't agree with that. I think the games that happen after half boards are good right now. Of course, if archetypes get even stronger, then eventually half boards are not going to be good enough. But that also depends, right? Maybe decks just get better at making half boards, like stronger half boards under Charmies as well. If this is something that like this can work either way. But I just think Yu-Gi-Oh at the moment is at a point where both like Ash and Kolpai are just unhealthy cards, but they also don't provide very fun gameplay. Because the problem with one-on-one hand traps is that the gameplay that they provide is not interesting at the moment, because cards resolving in Yu-Gi-Oh lead to so much card advantage. I mean, we've talked about this all the way, like all the one-card combos, right? But Yu-Gi-Oh is a one-card combo game at this part. In Yu-Gi-Oh, cards are meant to be flying across the table. Cards are meant to create card advantage. Cards are meant to create boards, you know, that do more than like just one card would suggest. Like, you know, this is Yu-Gi-Oh now. Yu-Gi-Oh does have decks that like multiply resources and get to a lot of like cards. That is normal. But the problem is trading one-on-one against Yu-Gi-Oh cards is not good gameplay, because when it's simple logic. If every card goes +5, then the gameplay that happens when you have one-on-one hand traps is just awful, because basically you hit the card that creates card advantage, and then you just hope they don't have another card that creates card advantage, because then you either need another hand trap or they create card advantage and you just lost the card for no reason. And so it comes down to this gameplay where your opponent activates a card, you try to stop it, then they activate another card, you try to stop that, and if any point you run out of negates for their cards, they just explode and win, or you have more than they do, and then they can't play the game at all, right? And that is not good gameplay. That is not good gameplay from both sides. No one is trying to compare number of starters against number of one-on-one hand traps. So this is a gameplay that has developed a lot in 23, 24, 25. And this is not something they should aim to do. And yeah. Ash is not as fair as Imprimer Veiler. Ash is fair, but Ash is not desirable. Ash is not interesting. That's the problem. And I think that is the same for all one-on-one hand traps. The gameplay, it's like I topped the YCS with Fiendsmith Kashtira, where half the deck was one-on-one hand traps. The deck was good. The gameplay was not. The gameplay, and it was a response to Snake Eye format. It was a response to Snake Eye format. That's all there is to it. It was a winning strategy. It even won that YCS, not in my hands, but the deck won that YCS. But the gameplay that was basically caused by Snake Eye format, it was not good. So, like, one-on-one hand traps, I'm not saying like the Fiendsmith Kashtira deck was good gameplay-wise. It was a good deck, but it was not good gameplay. So I think hitting Ash Blossom is a very good move. They should do more of it. They should hit cards that disproportionately favor the going first player, and they should work on like, basically, I think Charmies are the perfect way of doing it at the moment. I think I would like more cards that kind of promote half boards. Basically, they have to try and make cards that fulfill a couple of criteria, right? They need to let your opponent play. That's important. It's important in Yu-Gi-Oh that both players play the game, right? We need cards that don't just say no to cards. I think in an ideal world, there's 20 hand traps all doing different things and you pick between them. I think that's an awful world, Herman. I'm not gonna lie. I think that's an awful idea. Just picking the best cards to say no to your opponent's starters, I think is awful. I think one-on-one hand trap design or gameplay is not desirable. It was a response to stuff like Snake Eyes, but it's not. It's just awful. These cards are not unfair, but they're not interesting. It's definitely not ideal. We need ways to promote, like, basically one-on-one hand traps. One-on-one hand traps just work if decks are designed to build half boards if they get hand trapped, right? Like, that works in an environment where archetypes have proper choke points, right? Which is, I think we are past that point. Like, I keep saying, like, yeah, of course, decks should have choke points. If you have an effect veiler against the deck, you should be able to use it in a spot where it actually impacts the end board. But realistically, that's the same thing that like a Charmy does, because a Charmy also, like, You're not trying to use one-on-one hand traps. You're just trying to use charmies, basically. So, and it doesn't have to be charmies. You can achieve this in other ways. You can achieve this in ways like, I don't know, for Holy Sue, which is a way to... Holy Sue lets your opponent play, but then it interrupts some of the things that they do while also advancing your own board state, which is good. Phimena is an example of this, right? Bestials are an example of this. Basically, anything that doesn't just say no to something, like Ash, Impulse, Purge, Imperm, Veiler, whatever, provides healthy gameplay usually, right? The only exception, I think, is I think Nibiru is an outlier in this entire thing, because Nibiru, I think going second is fine, but Nibiru has this problem where going first, it's way too powerful if you have it behind a board. But yeah, I think Nibiru is another one of those. But I think the worst thing they can do is make more cards like Ash, Impulse, Imperm, Veiler, and also Droll and Lockbird, because Droll basically is the least interesting one because it's also Floodgate. So yeah, this was basically a kind of like a band-aid fix, or like hand traps were fine for the period that they existed now. Like the one-on-one hand trap type stuff was okay, because in the beginning, most of the decks actually had choke points for these cards, but they just designed too many archetypes now that just ignore these cards completely. And that's just, we need to move away from them now. Like what Ash Blossom is in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like Ash Blossom is generally a disgusting card now. Because going second, it is literally activate and pray your opponent cannot play the game. Literally what it is. In 99% of cases, you just activate it and hope they cannot play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because if they do, you lose. Because you now only have 4 cards and you're still staring down a full Mitsuyami board. And if you go first, it's just like, I Ash your Charmy and do full combo, or I do full combo and have Ash behind it. That is the gameplay of Ash Blossom in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That is where we are. So defending Ash Blossom right now, I think is weird. I think it's making a very weird argument to defend Ash Blossom right now. It's aged very poorly. It's been a card that for a long period of time, there was a lot of decks where it was very important to know where to Ash them, when you had to like know their lines and think about when to Ash and so on, and there was actual choke points. Nowadays, 99% of decks, you Ash the first thing and hope they pass. That's what Ash does going second. Right now, I think Ash is more fine because it has impact against Draco Tail. Yeah, that is basically the perfect world where the card design like Ash Blossom is fine, is if they make decks like Draco Tail, which is once again Draco Tail Enjoyers Rise Up. That's where it works, because the design on Draco Tail is so good. The design on Draco Tail is awesome. Yes, if you draw Ash against Draco Tail, it is 180 degrees. Or 360, I don't know what you had. It's completely different. You can decide to Ash Rahu if you look at what they're doing and you're like, okay, well, they seem to be low on Draco Tail names. Let me Ash Rahu. Then they only have 1 trap, usually. Or you have a powerful spell in your hand and you're like, okay, I will hold Ash Blossom for Draco Tail Flame and then play on my turn, right? You can do that against Draco Tail. It has impact. It has choke points, you know? You use it on Rahu, or you use it on Flame, or you can even sometimes, when your hand is really good, you can, in Master Duel, you sometimes hold it for Maxi, because just in case they have it. But that's not because Ash has aged well. That's because Draco Tail is a well-designed deck. Only because Ash Blossom does this against Draco Tail does not mean it's a good card for the game, because it doesn't do this in other matchups. You play against Malice, Ryziel, Mitsurugi Yami or whatever, Vanquish Soul K9, and you tell me how Ash Blossom feels as in types of gameplay when you're going second against these decks. It feels awful. If you play up against all of these decks, which are all meta decks in different formats of Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, and all very popular and probably more popular than Draco Tail in most formats, Ash Blossom takes away from your enjoyment of the game 100%. it makes those decks stronger going first, and it's bad going second against all of those decks. It's a bad card going second. If Charmies were not in the game, no one would play Ash against those decks. So does Fuba though. Okay, that's where I'm confused. How do you reach that conclusion? Genuine. This is a genuine question. I know I'm being one guide right now, but how do you reach the conclusion that if you're playing against Mitsuyami, Malice, Ryziel, Onomat Ryziel, and Vanquish Soul Canine, how do you reach the conclusion genuinely that Fuwalos is gonna worsen your experience when you play Yu-Gi-Oh? There is no shot that's true. You genuinely just yap without thinking what you say, don't you? Like, if you Fuva, all of those decks don't even lose to Fuva. All of those decks have good end boards against Fuva. None of them lose. It's not auto win. If you auto lose to Fuva with those decks, that's a you problem. None of those decks lose to Fuva. Fuva just forces them to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It doesn't matter if it's TCG or Master Duel right now. Like, literally all of those decks are just forced to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With their opponent when they get Fuva. That is all there is to it. So, yeah. The same was said for Droll, but we're also okay banning Droll. Droll is different than Fuva. Droll is different than Fuva because the gameplay that Droll offers is toxic. And once again, Droll has another big problem, which is that the player going first uses Droll. Both players use Droll. Droll happens to you when you go second. Fuva doesn't. There are so many fundamental things that we all talked about in the last 10-15 minutes, and people still bring up these kind of arguments every time, and it's kind of frustrating. That, like, it's such fundamental game design principles. I literally, in my OCG Banlist discussion, I talked about this exact thing, how Called By and Ash just benefit the player going first because Called By just negates hand traps and Ash just negates Charmies and whatnot. And people in the comments still say, like, yeah, I agree, Called By should be banned because hand traps should resolve, but why should we hit Ash? It's a hand trap, isn't it? Like, people are just not able to look past, I feel like, one layer of information. They're like, Called By is a spell, Ash is a hand trap, Called By negates hand traps, therefore Called By toxic, Ash Blossom not. Ash Blossom is Called By right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! It is Called By. Charmix existing means you have free spaces to side in turbo, go first cards in your deck. That is not a good argument. You can do that every time. Like, that is, you can always do this. You can always, the space you designate for Charmies, you could always just take out the cards you would play instead and just pick something for going first. That makes no sense. Nothing stops you from playing cards for going first ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can always do that in the side deck. That is a side deck problem, if anything, but not a Charmy problem. How are you going to sit and play a deck, then get Charmied by Draco Tail? Herman, Herman, I suggest you stop talking in this chat right now because you're uttering some crazy shit. You're like, if Ash is banned, the game is miserable because you get Charmied by Draco Tail. You sound like an insane person right now. I feel like you've got to be rage baiting. You've just got to be rage baiting. Are you sad that Phantom Revengers deck aren't as broken? No, I think Phantom Revenge decks are completely fine. If anything, it's the fault of other decks being too broken. I think stuff like Cool Tune is how I would like to see more decks designed in terms of its power level. I don't think the problem is ever like this archetype is too bad. I think it's always the other archetypes are too powerful. I still think we should get a shared right type Charmy. I agree with you. There are archetypes that are just bad. I mean, of course, yes, but like I think an archetype that is bad is much less of a problem than an archetype that is too powerful, because an archetype that is an archetype that's too bad just ends up not seeing play, so it doesn't actually ruin your experience playing the game. Which is like, okay, of course, if you really like the playstyle of an archetype, or you invested in the cards early and then they don't turn out to be good, I guess that is some bad aspects of that. But it's not gonna ruin everyone's tournament experience, right? Whereas if they make an archetype that's unbalanced and too broken, that actually, you know, that actually sucks. It's bad for product if they make too many bad archetypes. Like that, of course, there needs to be a balance between it. But like I think Cool Tune, for example, just to use that example, or Eniac Craft, I think those are not bad archetypes. I think they pale a little bit in comparison to what other top tier Yu-Gi-Oh decks are doing, but they're not like inherently bad cards. Frame, think of the 5 months. Draco Tail getting hit is sad. It is sad, but it's also necessary, I think. I think I changed my mind on this a little bit in the TCG as well. Like in my last Banlist video, I said like I'm not even sure if they need to hit Draco Tail, but I think with what's on the horizon, like Spenta and the branded support and basically Draco Tail turning into slop in the OCG right now, I think it's warranted to hit to hit Draco Tail. For sure. It would be cool if hand traps had a clause similar to Molcharmies. This card can only be used if you control 0 cards or something. They should definitely work on, like, basically, Yu-Gi-Oh decks these days, most engines are strong going first already. So they should really aim for non-engine that is more like disproportionately favors the player going second. They don't have to be completely unusable when you go first. I think that's like also not perfect, is when every card is dead in your hand when you go first, but you're still forced to play them because otherwise you lose going second. You know what I mean? But like, I think cards that are like stronger when you go second than when you go first, basically, is kind of like what they need to do. Like cards like you guys are mentioning some things they could do this in engine, right? Like people keep mentioning cards like, I don't know, Holy Su, Phimena, Ketu, or whatever. Like there's a lot of card design where like the cards are good going first, but they can also work going second, or sometimes are even better going second. That also works, but I think that should also apply to non-engine, right? Because of course it's cool if engine works better going second than going first. That's healthy, but it's also something. Why should it not apply to non-engine? Like why should it only apply to engine? Because if that's a good concept, if we like that concept, then why should we not also apply it to the cards that appear in basically every deck, right? Because right now it's kind of arbitrary. Like some decks have this and some decks don't. You know, some decks have Holy Su, some decks have Phimena, and some decks have nothing. And so those decks still have to basically go back to non-engine to fix going second, and non-engine that usually means that when they go first and combo and have all the non-engine in hand, it's going to be like Impulse Ash Nib or something, and then you can't beat that. So I think we need more non-engine, like Charmies, not exactly like Charmies. It doesn't all have to be drawing cards, but like we just need non-engine that's disproportionately good going second. Something like Forbidden Droplet was also a great attempt at this, because Forbidden Droplet, the reason why Forbidden Droplet is such good design is because it's usable going first, but it is much stronger when you're going second against certain decks. But like the problem with Forbidden Droplet these days is that board breakers just aren't it in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like you try to Forbidden Droplet a Mitsuyami board, have fun, because decks are way too layered now. Decks are way too strong when they go first these days to hit them with a Forbidden Droplet. I mean, sometimes people play Forbidden Droplet, but it's usually Forbidden Droplet going second only wins you the game if you resolve another hand trap going like a Molcharmi beforehand, like into the half board. Sure, you know, like if your opponent gets Fuvad and then makes a half board and then you Droplet, yeah, you win, of course. But it's not good on its own. In a world where Molcharmi is always resolved, do you think the number of cards you can hold should be reduced from +6? You mean like the end phase shuffle back clause? I mean, I think the problem, or like I kind of changed my mind on that clause on the Molcharmis. I kind of think it's okay that they have this, because unironically, if they said like, oh, you have to shuffle back everything except for the number of cards your opponent controls plus 2 or +3 or whatever, legit, there are decks that if you Charmy them, they just push, they just go. Like Malice, for example. I think Malice just goes. They just go in. They give you, like, you don't beat a Malice board with what? Like they have 4 monsters, 2 set cards, the field spell, which is 8 cards. Then you have 10 cards, and you don't beat that. You don't beat Malice with 10 cards in hand, probably. If they go full board, you lose to that. Just hit these decks, no? It'd be so easy if they did that. You know, I have an even better solution for you that is hypothetical, which is just don't make these decks in the first place. But that's not where we live. We live in a world, and that's the thing. That's why I'm trying. Like, I think the whole like make archetypes fairer and so on, and make archetypes have choke points. I think that those are all reasonable suggestions, right? And in a world where they do that, then yeah, Ash Blossom can exist. Yeah, Impulse can exist, and so on. But like at the same time, here's the thing: if you design archetypes in a more balanced way and they have choke points again. Once again, I think Ash Blossom is going to favor the player going first more than the player going second. Because if all the decks have proper choke points, guess what? If the player going first draws Ash Blossom, they hold it for the opponent's choke point, and then they win, probably, because they've made a board first. They've made a half board, they held Ash for the meaningful choke point, and they win the game. It's just non-engine needs to be worse going first than going second. I think that is a fundamental thing that we need to agree on. I think that is I don't care if it's one-on-one interaction or if it's something like a Charmy or whatever, or if it's something like a Nibiru type effect. But the card needs to be worse going first than going second. And that is not the case for Ash. That is not the case for Impulse. That is not the case for Nibiru. That is not the case for Droll Lockbird. That is incorrect for all of those cards. All of those cards favor the player going first more than the player going second. Most decks these days can play around Nib. Most decks these days can play around Droll. Most decks these days can play around individual, like one-on-one hand traps like Ash or Impulse. But when you go first and you have those cards in your hand, it becomes impossible to beat. If your opponent makes a board and has Nib in hand, you lost the game. If your opponent makes a board and has Droll in hand, you lost the game. If your opponent makes a board, has Ash or Impulse in hand, you lose the game. So Non-engine design needs to change for Yu-Gi-Oh! It needs to change for Yu-Gi-Oh! And it needs to change in a direction where the cards are better going second, period. I think that point, I think that point is fundamental, honestly. I think if you disagree on that, I think we fundamentally disagree with how Yu-Gi-Oh! Should be played, and we will never agree with each other. Herman. I honestly, it blows my mind that you disagree with that, Herman. I genuinely find that funny because I think that's crazy. I think that is such a low bar of game understanding type statement that disagreeing with it, I think, is crazy. Like there's arguments that I make where I can see people disagreeing with it. I think that one is low-key insane to disagree with. I think if you don't think that non-engine needs to be stronger going second than going first, I think there's something wrong. Maybe I got to specify what I disagree with. I mean, I can call you if you want to. Because I'm genuinely I'm curious and confused. I think engine needs the second effects, but you certainly don't lose because your opponent is going first with an Ash Blossom. I mean, that's a simplified argument, but like Ash Blossom is 100% better going first than going second right now. That is a statement you cannot disagree with. That is objectively true. That Ash Blossom currently benefits the player going first more than the player going second. And the what's it called? I think that's bad in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That part is subjective. The fact that I think engine should be better going second than going first is I guess that's subjective, but you cannot debate the fact that Ash Blossom is stronger for whoever starts with it than if you go second. Ash Blossom is barely a card that helps you going second. And I think that is a fundamental thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is we always thread the needle on going first being too broken. It is like with Tenpai being the basically only exception in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, it's always been better to go first than to go second. Besides Tenpai as one deck in a format and maybe Necros format. But other than that, like 99.9% of the time, the player going first is benefited in Yu-Gi-Oh! And this issue only gets like Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a natural power creep because archetypes get stronger, right? And it's like, I think it's pretty sound logic that like if the problem of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the player going first does too much or wins too much, that non-engine needs to kind of fix that problem. You need to be careful when weighing the scale. Well, I mean, I never said just carelessly design 25 cards that all auto win when you go second, but I do think Charmies right now are pretty well balanced. I in my experience, Mole Charmies at the moment create pretty healthy gameplay. Of course, I will iterate on this. This is all under the premise that archetypes are designed for that environment, because in a world, and I guess maybe that's where you're coming from, in a world where no one has any good non-engine for going first, and then they get Charmied, which basically means they get Charmied in a hand that's full of engine or non-engine that doesn't function when they start, right? Then that could be a problem, right? So maybe that's your point, but then of course you're greatly exaggerating like what I'm saying. Like that is not a world that's going to exist. They're not going to ban every single bit of non-engine that works when you go first, right? They're not going to ban nib, imperm, impulse, ash, and stuff all of the same time, right? Because if they ban Ash Blossom, you still play cards like imperm or whatever, right? You would still play some of those cards. I'm not arguing all of them should go. The one that should go is the one that negates the Charmies. Most of the non-engine does not actually work into engine at all if you go first. Well, but then they also don't work going second. That's the thing, right? If imperm sucks ass, then that's because archetypes are too powerful. Then sure, they can also at the same time they can make more non-engine that interacts better with new decks. But like Yu-Gi-Oh is not in this age anymore where these one-on-one negates basically really work. I just don't think it's interesting gameplay to imperm something and hope they pass, because that's where we are. Like that's what happens against all of these decks. You play against Mitsuyami, you imperm something, you just hope they pass. You play against Vanquish Soul K9, they normal summon Noroi, you imperm and you hope they pass. I think most of the non-engine are better going second when you think about how the deck's choke points work, or maybe not most, but a very sizable amount of it. I think that was true a while ago, but I think nowadays it's not true anymore. I think they just gradually removed. They phased out choke points. They kind of got rid of choke points, and I think that's the most important thing. If you go second, you are allowed to hit cards that aren't starters. I mean, sure, you can, but it's usually statistically a losing play in most matchups. And that doesn't change between going first and going second. If anything, it's even easier going first to keep for certain choke points, because you have your board to handle other things. But like as long as cards like Noroi exist, you just it throws every single choke point out of the window, because that one Noroi, it splits up into 25 different cards. And even if you're gonna say like, oh, just hold the imperm or the Saryuja just in case they don't have a Vanquish Soul card in their hand, that is the same thing. You are still imperming and hoping they don't have a certain card in your hand, in their hand. You still hope to trade for don't have that card in your hand, which sure, you can do that, but at that point, it still is a very, it's still very much not in your favor, this sort of trade-off. For example, Valor Imperm only working versus extra deck cards against Mitsu, only working against Altharion after they already get value versus Detail, only hitting Raisin Noroi instead of Ripper Saryuja, whatever else against Raisin. Valor Imperm, yeah, okay, Valor Imperm is significantly stronger going first against Mitsu than going second. That's my point. Imperm is stronger going first against Mitsu than going second. Going second, it's kind of mediocre. Going first, you can actually hit like the Murakumo when it tries to Raigeki your board. I don't know. I see a little bit where you're coming from, but I just think you're wrong. I think it's that simple. I see your argument and I disagree with it. I think most of it is just fabricated and not real examples. I think the statement of most non-engine at the moment is stronger going first than going second, I think is true. And I think just because you can find some exceptions does not make it not true. But yeah. I know we disagree, but the way we argue right now is way too simplified to put this into Twitch chat like this. I mean, I told you I can call you, but I think it's also kind of pointless because I don't know. I think you're just saying stuff to make sound right now. I don't think you actually disagree that much with this. At least I don't see how you could. Like, I open Twitter and I see this, right? Has posted the top 100 decks of the Duelist Cup, and you're telling me Ash Blossom is a healthy card going second, or like to exist in this format, when it does nothing against this deck, nothing against this deck, and you're afraid of getting Kettoot by Draco Tail after you get Charmied. Right? And that's like and that's the kind of argument you're trying to make right now. So I think you're just on very losing ground here. I think your arguments are just not based in reality right now. You're just like, okay, if the format was in a way I envisioned it in the future, if they designed all archetypes well, then Ash Blossom is fine. It's like, yeah, sure, but that's not where we are right now. Like, we are here. This is where Yu-Gi-Oh is, right? This is the decks that people play. And in this environment, Charmies are healthy, Charmies are good for Yu-Gi-Oh, and Ash Blossom is not, period. That is not something we can debate, realistically. Which is not Ash's fault, I guess, if that's what you're trying to get at. It is not Ash's fault that we are here. And it's not Ash's fault that it has aged poorly. But the thing is, yeah. Sorry if you're saying something right now. Just got hit by another 2-minute unskippable ad. It's fine, whatever. I don't think we're getting anywhere. Extra deck cards that help going second could be an option. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. It does not all have to be as simple as, or it does not all have to be a Mulcharmy. It doesn't all have to be a Mulcharmy, but like your way going second to win in Yu-Gi-Oh right now should not be Imperm, Veiler, Ash, or whatever, because those cards, they trade horribly into most meta decks. You either hit the first thing you do, or you allow them to print 5 cards before you Imperm something that is sometimes a choke point if they didn't draw any good extender in their hand. Which, in my opinion, is not desirable gameplay. So there is ways to solve this. They can print more good engine cards for going second. They can print cards like Zeus and Typhon and make them actually better, because Typhon is way too weak for what it does, or what it's supposed to do. They can print cards like the Mulcharmies. All of that stuff works, because none of those, like, Zeus doesn't benefit the player going first. Typhon doesn't benefit the player going first. Mulcharmies don't benefit the player going first. The overwhelming amount of cards that people look at as healthy design, like Droplet as well, a lot of those cards benefit the player, going first. Benefit the player going second more than the player going first. I hate Malice Automat Ryzeal format as much as anyone else, but in the same way I hate Goki and I hated the other combo heavy formats, I blame this on archetype design rather than anything else. I mean, yeah, that's fair enough, but that's not what we're disagreeing on right now, right? We're not disagreeing on who's at fault for this, because yes, this is not Ash's fault. It's not Ash's fault that we are in this spot, but I'm trying to be realistic and I'm trying to think about how we can get away from this. And we are not going to get away from this if they just design healthy archetypes from here on out. Because, and we are seeing this right now, they can make healthy archetypes all they want. People still play the one archetype that they messed up on from 1.5 years ago. Or slightly more than a year, not 1.5. But like, Malice is at the top here. It doesn't matter if Draco Tail is well designed. It doesn't matter if Mitsurugi in its core is well designed. If these decks still exist. And so a practical solution is not to say like, oh well, they should just design archetypes better. Like, yes, of course, they could ban all the unhealthy stuff, but they won't do that. And I also think even if you ban all the toxic shit that is on this list, mainly Malice and Onomat Ryziel, if you ban all of these, there is stuff to replace them. There is a lot of other archetypes that could take their footsteps. Literally not even 6 months ago, we were playing Mermail format. And Mermail still exists. Mermail is basically full power in most formats. So at this point, you're basically asking them for something that won't happen, which is, because think about it from their perspective. Even if they had the goal to phase out all these decks over time, they would basically not sell anything for years. Because they hit Malice, they hit Ryziel, they release Cool Tune, no one cares for it. And even if they ban Malice, no, Cool Tune is not going to take its place. It's going to be some other combo shit. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh just has this in it. This is part of Yu-Gi-Oh. This is something that I had to come to terms with as well over the last couple of years, right? This is something that I had to learn the hard way. I started complaining about this in like 2023 when I made it a meme that I hated math mech and one card combos and stuff. Like, I made videos criticizing one card combos in 2023 because I understood that this was not great for Yu-Gi-Oh, but you know, it happened. Every deck has one card combos these days. Everything, even the rogue decks have one card combos that in some cases do way too much. And so I guess if you say like, oh, I just wanted them to design archetypes in a different way, then I do agree with that. I do think that is theoretically the best solution, but that's not going to happen. You know, there's so many decks that can do what these decks are doing, but it's just slightly worse, right? You look at White Forest right now, you look at Mermail Atlantean, those decks are not far away from the top. They are really not far away from the top. They are just worse versions of these decks, but the playstyle exists. And they are not bad. If they hit decks like this, those decks will pop up. And if they hit those decks, then other decks will pop up, because every single, like, we've literally looked at like for the new card reveals from the limit over collection, there's like there's other stuff that really hurts them. That really, you know, White Forest doesn't really care about Charmies at all. No, Perulia is really good against White Forest. That's cap. There's Synchron stuff in there that's basically the same type of slop than what these are. So the solution to this, unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, the solution to this is not archetype design. It doesn't work. They can design only healthy archetypes from here on out, and people would still play the one archetype that they messed up on from 6 months ago, or from a year ago, or from even 2 years ago. That is not the solution. Like, yes, they should be designing more healthy archetypes with less ability to bridge into each other. That is, I guess that's a cold take that everyone has in Yu-Gi-Oh! But there's already more stuff on the horizon. We're getting Spenta in 2 months. And Spenta does everything you want it to do in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can put Spenta in any deck and it's a starter. For anything. It doesn't matter. So we did this. It's not a practical solution to say that, you know, just make healthier archetypes. That doesn't happen. And once again, this circles back to Ash Blossom. I think Spenta is a perfect example for this. Because if you look at any Spenta combo deck, do you think Ash Blossom is better for the player going first or going second? Would you rather Ash a Spenta when you go second? Or would you rather have your Charmy resolve against a deck that plays Spenta? I think it's pretty clear which is the healthier interaction and which player benefits from which card more. Because if I go first and open Spenta plus Ash, I'm more likely to win than you if you have Ash Blossom. Ashing Spenta, like Spenta is like three pushes through an Ash Blossom. You already have Spenta in the grave to equip your normal summon with the Artemis and search Crowley. Like that card is specifically designed to play through Ash Blossom going first. And that's another thing. Like, yes, in an ideal world, they don't design cards to just ignore Ash Blossom, but they did. They designed cards to ignore Ash Blossom going first completely. They designed cards like the entire archetypes like Malice that full combo with a 1-card starter through Ash. And that's not okay, but it happened. And so we are at a point where we just are now, you know, like, and I guess in a hypothetical world where they just completely turned on how they design archetypes and make Ash Blossom a meaningful hand trap again, then sure, maybe Ash Blossom would be a healthy card. But right now, in the world we live in, it's not. So I hope I was able to make my point clear. I kind of see where you're coming from, Herman, but I just think it's like not applicable to where we are in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I just don't think. I think on a fundamental level, I agree with you. I think archetype design should be better and should have been better for years now, but it didn't happen. And I do think, to an extent, I think what I see from combo decks like this existing is like people like this sort of playstyle as well. Only because I dislike it, I don't like. I'm not ignoring the fact that some people really like this sort of gameplay, but at the same time, you need to understand there needs to be some balancing factor to this gameplay. And Ash Blossom is a card that does not. Ash Blossom does not stop people from playing combo. Ash Blossom is actually helping people that want to play combo decks right now. Like if Ash didn't exist, and maybe think of it from that perspective, right? Like these decks exist right now, right? Where is it? Malice and Automat Ryziel and stuff, these decks exist right now, right? And other combo decks are waiting to replace them if they get banned. If Ash Blossom was banned, would this benefit this playstyle or would it hurt this playstyle? And in my opinion, the answer is pretty clear. It would hurt this playstyle because then you actually might lose if you get Charmied more often. It definitely hurts the combo playstyle. So the argument of Ash Blossom, you know, is good for the player going second or helps you beat combos because it's a hand trap. I think it's null and void. It's not an argument for if you want if you have an issue with this gameplay, you should have an issue with Ash Blossom. But what if they resolve Charmies? They win every time? Yes, that is the argument of like, okay, well, once again, if you go first and you get Charmied by Malice, then Malice runs over you, which is going to be true sometimes, and they absolutely still need to do something about those decks. That's the thing. What I'm saying is not just get rid of Ash Blossom and ignore those decks. No, the decks need to be hit. Absolutely. That is not my argument. My argument is not, no, never hit Malice, never hit Ryziel, just hit Ash Blossom so I can Charmy them in peace. That is not my argument. They should still weaken the power level of those decks. But that's besides the argument. That we're not even debating that. Of course they need to murder these decks, 100%. But like, it's just that combo decks as a whole are not going anywhere, right? Even if you ban the ones that are currently popular, they're going to make more in the future, and there's even some waiting in the wings to just replace them. So there needs to be a plausible solution to combo decks when in terms of non-engine. And that non-engine at the moment is Charmies. Charmies at the moment are makes you be able to play the game going second against like Malice and Automat Ryziel. And they are also, the same is true for the TCG when you look at stuff like Malice, not Malice, Malice too, but Mitsurugi, Yami, or stuff like that. So, yeah. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I do realize now that we're talking about it that there is a lot of discussion to be had on it, but I do think ultimately my point stands. Cards, non-engine cards that help the player going first more than the player going second, especially Ash, because it negates Charmies, are not in a good place for Yu-Gi-Oh right now. I hope I was able to get my point across. You don't have to all agree with it, but I at least hope I was able to make it clear. Would you agree that if a Charmy resolves and you play against Dracotail or Vanquish Soul before the ban list, you have to pray for them to brick or you lose the game? No, what the hell? That basically, if Dracotail Charmies you, that's fine. If you just don't play a bad deck into it. If genuinely, and that's I guess something else that a lot of people, it's gonna be mean, but you will need to hear it. If you lose because you got Charmied and your opponent drew a normal hand, not like the nuts, it's probably a you problem. Most decks are capable of building very, very strong half boards under Charmies. And none of the decks that you just mentioned, I'm talking pure Vanquish Soul, not Vanquish Soul K9, or pure Dracotail, none of those decks should at all give you an auto loss when they resolve a Charmy. And if it does, then the problem is not the is usually a you problem. Most is the wrong word. It's like 3 decks in current. It's all of the top tier decks in TCG. Literally all. None of them lose to a Charmy. None. 0. Not Vanquish Soul, not Dracotail, not Yami, not Yamimitsu. None of them lose to a Charmy. They all are, all that happens is they're forced to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead of making an auto-win board. Looks like top 100 has a pretty even split between Malice rank 4 decks and Dracotail. Why are we talking about needing to hit the first 2 decks and say nothing about Dracotail? Because Dracotail is a healthy Yu-Gi-Oh deck, and these 2 aren't. And that is A tier rage bait. Also, it's 7 Dracotail. The other 2, Magistus Dracotail and Fiendsmith Dracotail don't count. Because those are just combo players cosplaying as... those are just combo players playing a verse version of Malice and Automat Ryziel. They don't count. There's 7 Dracotail and 3 pure Dracotail. So 10 Dracotail. But yeah, I mean, you probably weren't here earlier. At least I hope you weren't here earlier when I talked about this already, because otherwise that comment is insane. But we need to get away from this idea that the only thing that determines whether a Yu-Gi-Oh deck needs to be hit or is healthy or not is representation. Okay? This is a fundamental thing that needs to be understood, is that not only something can be a problem if it's not popular, and something can be popular and be okay. And the most important thing is that Yu-Gi-Oh games can be fun for both players. And that is something that I feel like maybe it's because there's a lot of people who started playing in like the last 2 or 3 years that don't know about this. But there's genuinely a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh formats where Yu-Gi-Oh is fun for both players, even the one that loses. And the difference between Malice, Onomat Ryziel, and Draco Tail is that in the case of Malice and Onomat Ryziel, the player who sits across from them has negative fun. It's a waste of time to play against these decks. Your opponent is playing Solitaire, and the result of their Solitaire is always they win the game, and you have no say in it whatsoever if their hand just happens to play through your hand traps. And that is not the case with Draco Tail. And let me tell you, I've played over 400 games in this Duelist Cup, probably. And most of the games against Draco Tail were fun, even the ones I lost. None of the games against Malice or Ryziel were fun, especially when they went first. And that's the important difference between Draco Tail, Ryziel, Onomat, and Malice. And this is what people need to understand, because I think the biggest ground that people stand on when they defend Malice or Onomat is, well, I think it's fun when I play it. And that is not how it works. If you saw a game, and let's say you saw a board game in a store, and it was clearly advertised as like, oh, it's a 2-player game, but the player that wins has fun, and it's miserable for the other player that doesn't win, you would never buy it to play with your friends. You wouldn't do that. And it's a super, when I put it like that, then how is that a crazy analogy? How is that crazy? That's exactly what Malice and Onomat Ryziel are. That's what it is. That's only crazy if you're delusional, I feel like. The idea that Yu-Gi-Oh can be fun for both players is something that got lost along the way of the last 2 years or something. And we need to get that back. We seriously need to get that back. Because I'm not gonna lie, that's the one thing that could make me quit Yu-Gi-Oh is if we have only these decks left. If we have no more decks that provide fun for both players, I stop playing. Genuinely, it's something that I would never have considered in all the time I've played Yu-Gi-Oh. But if that happens, I'm out. I'm not trying to play Solitaire. And I don't think I'm alone with that. Clearly something has changed this year. No, I mean, that's the thing, right? I am not alone with that. And people, I think the majority of people agrees with this, but I still think it's something that we need to fundamentally understand this. This is something we need to evaluate decks by how fun they are to play against. This is something that is really undervalued in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, with the introduction of Snake Eye and whatever, like, people have just kind of like fallen in love with this kind of idea of, oh, I learned this spreadsheet and I go and pull off this combo and I win the game and all I have to do is find that line and stuff like that. That's not a 2-player game. That's not how it should be. And this part is highly subjective, by the way. It's just, but subjective can still mean that, like, you know, a majority of people can still agree with it. And for me personally, that is the one thing that could lead to me not wanting to play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore if every format and every deck is like this. At the moment, basically, I try to look for the decks that don't do that. I try to play the decks that are fun to play and so on for myself, because I value that more than winning at any cost. Like for this Duelist Cup, where I said in the beginning, I'm just going to play Draco Tail and maybe some Pure Mitsu. I'm not going to touch Malice or anything else because that's not what I want to do. But at the point where that is no longer possible, at the point where there is no more equivalent of Draco Tail, or there is no equivalent of pure Mitsurugi, then I will probably lose enjoyment over time. And this is why I criticize this sort of stuff so viciously, because I care about it so much, because there's nothing I fear more in this hobby than it not being fun for me anymore. And that the only way that happens is if we promote this type of gameplay more. Oh yeah. Konami loves combo too much. They even tried turning stun into combo. I do think there is a balance, and I do believe that. I think there is a balance between the two worlds. I think there is a world where combo decks can exist, but there's meaningful counterplay. There needs to be cards that punish combo decks without them just being able to negate them like it's nothing, like ashing a Molcharmy or ashing whatever. And there needs to be, and there is also a world where there is combo decks that I genuinely think are more fun to play against because their end boards are just not as auto win. Like, it still plays like a combo deck, but the end board is like not as broken. Like my favorite example for this is Memento, which is of course still a deck that you have to sit across and freaking it takes a 15-minute turn on you. Which I understand that that's annoying for people, but at the same time, like, that deck took a lot of skill and was actually, the end board it made was not even that crazy. When it ended on SP, Combined Creation, and like the 2 spells, like that was freaking beatable. It took a long time for them to get there, but it was still, I think it's that deck, like, I mean post-Appaloosa, 100%, of course. That deck was 100%, like, it scratched that itch for combo players, I think. And I saw the appeal with that too. I played Memento myself. But like, I think it was, I think it's, compared to other combo decks, it's one of the most healthy ones I've seen in recent years. So I think there is a world where the playstyle can exist, right? But this is not what a playstyle existing looks like. This is the playstyle being everywhere, omnipresent, not balanced at all, and clearly the thing you have to do if you want to win. Because Malice, Onomat Ryziel, Gem Knight Fiendsmith, Mitsurugi Ryziel, Luna Light are all that playstyle, basically. And that is more than half of the decks that they don't even have the full 100 decks here in this thingy, right? This is like 70 decks or something. If I'm just doing it, what is it? 45, 52, 62, it's a little more than 70. 70, wait, hold up. 52, 62, 71. It's 81 decks. Out of 81 decks, this is 45. Magistus Dracotail is also slop 50. Gemini Fiend 55, 59, 61. This is 61 of those types of decks out of 81. Which is 75% of the top 100 metagame of this Duelist Cup is combo. Combo as hard, like the hardest of your abilities, right? Which is not how balance looks like. That is not how balancing between playstyles and balancing non-engine so it's good against combo decks as well and so on. That is not how it works. Odeon can also be toxic. Not the argument. I'm not saying that that's the only thing that deserves to be looked at in Yu-Gi-Oh! In terms of balancing. Like that is all people always like. They always twist these sort of arguments into like, oh, you complain about this one thing. Why are you not complaining about this other thing? Like, yeah, Odeon Stun was also miserable to play against. 100%. That deck is awful to play against. But it's not what we're talking about right now. But yeah. Why don't you talk about Odeon? Quite frankly, Odeon is not worth talking about. That deck is just bad. It's just that this is the type of deck that people play because they're sick of combo decks and they want to compete. And so they play Odeon Stun. Like Odeon actually is a pretty cool mid-range deck if it's played in like in that way. But that version is just not viable because there's other decks that are better. And then the only thing that was left for Odeon people was to play Odeon Stun. And that deck is disgusting, but it's also terrible. So it's not worth talking about. Compared to Master Duel, the TCG is a little bit more of a balanced environment. It's not perfect yet, but it's a little bit better than this. And in the TCG, there was actually some cool Odeon variants that were able to perform, like some Odeon Fiendsmith, where it was built more like a grindy mid-range deck, and that was fine. It didn't have any floodgates and so on. So in TCG, it was a fine deck, but even there, it was barely able to break like tier 2, I would say, but it was a decent deck. In Master Duel, it's quite literally just stun. I'm scared of February. I played Draco since August and had so much fun. I was so excited for YCS Dortmund, but the new releases look scary. I'm in the same boat. I mean, I really like Draco Tail right now. Especially after playing it for this Duelist Cup. I cherished all the Draco Tail mirror matches. I really did. And I kind of I'm a little scared of what's gonna happen to this deck. I mean, as someone who doesn't like the kind of combo approach, like seeing Draco Tail turn from the pure deck into this is really scary, yeah, or really sad. This is currently what they're doing in the OCG, right? It's just a smaller. The Draco Tail package is getting smaller and smaller, and it's just, well, you have Spenta in there as well to get to your like monster Omni Negate and push through hand traps like it's nothing. You play the Albaz package to put some synchros in there as well. Kaliga is probably very easy to do in this one as well, and it's like, yeah, but it looks fun. Once again, yes, it looks fun to play, but it doesn't look fun to play against because it turns Draco Tail from a deck that has choke points and meaningful interactions into a deck that going second, you now stare down Kaliga and Zoroa, and like literally the combination of Kaliga, Zoroa, and Flame is completely insane because you can't out it with spell cards because you get flamed. You can't Ash the Flame because they have Zoroa for it. And you can only attempt to activate one monster effect, and that gets negated by Zoroa. So, yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do now. Yeah, and you can attack with one monster, but that monster gets bounced to the head with Draco Tailhorn. So it's quite literally, it's just trying to be an FTK. And with the new cards, it seems like it's finally succeeding and good enough at doing that. So yeah, I don't know. It's there's look, after all this, you might think like there's a lot of problems with modern Yu-Gi-Oh, and there are some, but at the same time, like a lot of this is currently contained in Master Duel and the OCG. The TCG does have a lot of this stuff handled, not specifically for Draco Tail yet, but like TCG has been doing better at this historically, and OCG currently, I think OCG is currently doing the right things, or at least some of the right things, like hitting Max C and lowering Ash Blossom and Called By and stuff, take away from the hand trap minigame, and so on. There is two very important things to keep in mind for this. Is that archetype design needs to get better, and I do think I might do like an end of the year stream where we recap Yu-Gi-Oh a little bit alongside the design awards. Which, by the way, you can still go !awards, I think, and take part in the survey. We've already, let me check how many responses we have on the surveys already. With so many responses, it takes a while to load for me. It's over 4,000 already. 4,300 responses, which is awesome. So we're getting a pretty large sample size of the community. Is that more than last year? It's way more than last year. Because last year we had like 1,000, I think. Because I did it relatively late and I didn't really post it in many places. This year I asked some people to share it with their own communities so that we don't only get the Josh viewers in there, but also like as many. I wanted to get as many people involved as possible that aren't even, you know. You need help going through the results? I think we're fine. I structured the questions much better this year. So I think it shouldn't be a problem, because last year the biggest problem was the spelling, because for a lot of them I just did free text, and so people just wrote whatever, you know. And this time I made it more like I looked for all the options and just put bullet points. So it's easier. It's way easier to do this year. So yeah. But last year we got Kid Carlos. That was worth it. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. All right. I feel like that was a good talk, but I don't really have anything else prepared for the day, and I'm still a little bit tired from the weekend, so I think I'm going to call it a day. Dude, my hair is wild today as well. I slept well, you can tell. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. It's not going to be the last stream of the year, but it is the last stream before Christmas. So I'm gonna go on a little bit of a Christmas break, visit family, and all that good stuff. I hope you all have wonderful holidays. Thank you all so much for tuning in today, over the course of the weekend, and over the course of the entire year. If there is a ban list at 6 p.m., then I will be there. I will be there at 6 p.m. if there is a ban list, but I'm not going to be live until then. I don't have the energy to fill 2.5 hours right now. But yeah, it's been an awesome year for Yu-Gi-Oh! We're going to have another stream towards the end of the year to kind of recap everything that happened and all the good things and bad things that happened this year and all that good stuff. But until then, thank you all so much for your support. Hope you have a wonderful holidays, whether you celebrate Christmas or not. Wish you a Merry Christmas if you do celebrate, or just a couple of wonderful days.